Chapter 49-73. Inside the divine crystal, Xiaojiuyo opened his eyes and smiled kindly. "You're back?" Lin Xian said. "I've kept you waiting." With that, he waved his hand and opened the sword world. It enveloped Xiaojiuyo as well. "Now that I've found the divine spring of life, it has a strong vitality. He once created the immortal divine medicine and the divine tree of life. He should be able to cure you." Xiaojiuyo's eyes lit up. "The divine spring of life? You actually obtained it as well. How could Spirit Realm be willing to give it to you?" Lin Xian was even more surprised. He didn't expect Xiaojiuyo to know such a secret. Wasn't this something only the divine tree of life and the previous masters of Spirit Realm knew? Xiaojiuyo recalled and said, "Back then, I also went to Spirit Realm to look for the immortal herb. I saw the divine spring of life. However, Spirit Realm was related to a great emperor back then. I wasn't a great emperor back then, so I couldn't make a move. So, I left." "How did you get it? It shouldn't be easy. How could Spirit Realm be willing to give it to you?" Xiaojiuyo was also very confused. Lin Xian said that Spirit Realm was destroyed and no longer existed. Xiaojiuyo's pupils shrank. He looked up and asked, "What's going on?" Lin Xian said, "I didn't do it. It was the Thousand Dragon Court." It was a long story. To put it simply, the Dragon Prince's life was in danger. The Thousand Dragon Court went crazy and wanted to snatch the divine tree of life. There was actually such a thing. Xiaojiuyo exclaimed. It seemed that the battle for Great Emperor was getting more and more intense. Lin Xian said, "Old Xia, let's use the divine spring of life first." He felt that the other party was in a bad state. "So, I'm not suitable to stay in this world in my current state. Let me out first. Take out the divine spring of life." Lin Xian also came back to his senses. He was too excited just now and didn't see that the divine crystal on Xiaojiuyo's body was about to disappear. Obviously, the sword world was absorbing power. He said, "I was too reckless." He quickly brought Xiaojiuyo out of the sword world. At the same time, he took out 2 springs from the sword world. It was placed in Xiaojiuyo's cave. Xiaojiuyo sat on the mouth of the spring as the divine spring of life enveloped him. His withered body was gradually recovering. "That's great." Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Sure enough, it worked. Next, Lin Xian gave Xiaojiuyo a detailed account of his experiences on the buried Emperor Star. Xiaojiuyo felt gratified after hearing this. The student has surpassed the teacher. You will definitely walk further on the path of the great emperor than me. By the way, Elder Xia, what is going on in this world? Why did it wither? Lin Xian asked about the sword world. Elder Xia sighed. This world had withered away during the Great War back then. However, it did not shatter. It was just that its power had dried up. As long as there was a chance, he would be reborn. Now that he is in your hands, you must take good care of him. Perhaps you will be able to achieve that goal one day when you control this world. Xiaojiuyo's explanation was very vague, but Lin Xian knew that this world was very important. Furthermore, he had also experienced the wonders of this world. The growth rate of the spirit herbs inside was countless times faster than the growth rate outside. It was simply a paradise. He really did not know what kind of great war had caused this world to wither away. Peak Great Sage? Or was it a battle between great emperors above the great sage? Lin Xian then left. He had been maintaining the connection between the sacred spring of life and the sacred spring of life. This would allow Xiaojiuyo to continue recovering. This time, he went out to meet with the people from the Divine Hall. The group was very happy. Bai Susu and the others from the Divine Union were already familiar with Peacock and the others. Therefore, they chatted happily with each other. Everyone was lively for more than 10 days before gradually calming down. On this day, Xiaojiuyo's pupils shrank. Lin Xian's expression changed. He could sense that the little bit of vitality that Xiaojiuyo had just recovered seemed to be rapidly declining. What was going on? Lin Xian's expression changed as he instantly arrived at the ancient cave. What had happened? Xiaojiuyo's face was a little pale. His eyes were staring ahead as though he was confronting something. Lin Xian was puzzled. He couldn't sense anything. A moment later, he activated his heavenly secret god eye, and his golden gaze swept over. The void was torn apart, and a wind blew past. Who was it? Lin Xian waved his hand and grabbed nothing. However, at that moment, he discovered that there were a few footprints on the ground. It was pitch black. Someone had come here and was confronting Xia Jiuyo. Who was it? Lin Xian took the lead to look at Xia Jiuyo. He had set up countless arrays in the surroundings. However, Xia Jiuyo said that it was useless. He had not expected it to be them. They were indeed still alive. Lin Xian was even more puzzled. Who exactly was it? One had to know that although Xia Jiuyo's vitality was not much now, he had been invincible when he was at his peak. Even on the buried Emperor's star, there were probably not many who could contend with him. One could only imagine how terrifying the existence that had shocked him was. They were from the underworld. The underworld? Lin Xian was stunned. Wasn't that an assassin organization? There were terrifying assassins. Lin Xian's face turned gloomy. Xia Jiuyo said that assassins were one of the members of the underworld, but not all of them. For example, the Heavenly Court also had assassin organizations. However, that was only a part of it. Lin Xian was astonished. He asked, could it be that the underworld is in existence like the Heavenly Court? Xia Jiuyo nodded. That was more or less the case. When he was at his peak, he had contended against them, and neither could do anything to the other. Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. Although he had never seen the Heavenly Court, he had heard of it. The Heavenly Court had the heaven-devouring jar, countless ancient cultivation techniques, and the 12 Dao palaces. It was truly an organization with countless experts and geniuses. He had not expected the underworld to be so terrifying. Xia Jiuyo continued to say shocking things. The Heavenly Court had great emperors, and so did the underworld. The one who had created the Heavenly Court was called the Heavenly Emperor. The one who had created the underworld was called the Underworld Emperor. The Underworld Emperor's ultimate weapon was the Book of Life and Death. It could control the life and death of tens of thousands of worlds. Although the Underworld Emperor had died, the Book of Life and Death had been passed down. Xia Jiuyo's every word shocked Lin Xian even more. The Book of Life and Death could reap one's soul and take one's life? Were these people here to take Xia Jiuyo's life? Xia Jiuyo sighed. The heavenly Tao was heartless. No one could escape from the cycle of life and death. However, we cultivate to prolong our lives as much as possible. Therefore, there was the immortal divine medicine and the second life. Now that I have been nourished by the divine spring of life, my vitality has begun to recover. My reincarnation from the dead has naturally destroyed the will of the heavenly Tao. This has attracted the attention of the underworld. That was why they had sent an emissary here. Was there no other way? Lin Xian frowned. It had not been easy for him to obtain the divine spring of life. Xia Jiuyo said that there was still a way. They were called the underworld, but they were only some powerful saints. They were neither gods nor immortals. In the end, they were eliminating potential enemies for the underworld. Chapter 4974. Lin Xian understood and heaved a sigh of relief. What Xia Jiuyo had said about the Book of Life and Death and the Underworld Emperor had frightened him. That was why he had imagined them to be existences that surpassed everything. Now, it seemed like these were just titles. They were people just like the Heavenly Court and the Purple Mansion. It was just that their cultivation techniques and abilities were a little strange. Since they were people, they could be dealt with and killed. I want to see if the Book of Life and Death can bring them back to life when their bodies and souls are destroyed. Xia Jiuyo's eyes shone with a piercing light. How could he give up now that there was hope? He said, "Give me 2 more springs and I'll recover faster. When I'm stronger, I'll be able to enter your world. They won't be able to enter then." Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. However, his expression turned grave in the next moment. Xia Jiuyo had said, "Before that, you have to be able to withstand 3 attacks." 3 attacks? Lin Xian's eyes flickered as he took a deep breath. "Don't worry. Leave it to me. I won't let anyone hurt you." He sat down in a lotus position outside the cave. He didn't tell the Sacred Hall or the Divine Union. The Hell's emissary came and went without a trace. It was very mysterious and strange. The night turned dark. A chilly wind blew, and Su Cheng opened his eyes abruptly. He felt his hair stand on end. Golden flames danced in his eyes as he looked ahead. The whole world changed in his eyes. He could see more clearly. He found that there was indeed a blurry figure walking over. This person was wearing a black robe and emanating a deathly aura. He was swinging a chain in his hand. However, he couldn't hear him at all. Perhaps only Xiaojuyo could hear this voice. The Hell's emissary flew towards Xiaojuyo. He didn't pay attention to Lin Xian at all, as though he didn't exist. Lin Xian waved his hand and a sword aura cut through the sky, blocking the other party's path. The Hell's emissary stopped in front. When he saw the golden flames in Lin Xian's eyes, he said in a low voice, "Young man, can you see me?" "Of course. Not only can I see you, but I'll also stop you." "Just you? Ha 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 ha. Hell reaps your soul, and Anitya Hellguard reaps your life. You can't stop that. If you dare to interfere with the affairs of the underworld, I'll take your soul away and send it to hell for all eternity." His voice contained an extremely terrifying power. That was the aura of death, sweeping towards Lin Xian. Lin Xian sneered. The law of death also condensed on his body. When the two of them collided, it was like two mountains clashing. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Elder Xiao was right. You guys are just humans who have cultivated special techniques and abilities. There's nothing to be surprised about. You've also cultivated the law of death? The underworld emissary was shocked. But soon, he sneered. You're too naive. Since we're both death laws, I'll let you know the difference between us. Since you dare to stand in the way of hell's business, then I'll take your soul away. The chain in his hand flew forward. Lin Xian could feel a huge, shackling force enveloping him. It was a force that suppressed his soul. Soul chains? In his eyes, golden radiance ignited heaven and earth, burning fiercely, blocking those chains. The entire chain shook violently. The underworld emissary's expression changed again. What a strong soul aura. Those eyes. He stared at Lin Xian's eyes and frowned. Young man, are you really not going to move aside? Lin Xian didn't say anything this time. Instead, he took the initiative to attack. Take a punch from me too. The golden fist punched out, shattering heaven and earth. The underworld emissary sneered. It's useless. You can't hurt me. But as soon as he finished speaking, his hair stood on end and he retreated in horror. Damn it, the power of reincarnation. Who are you? Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back and said loudly, You don't need to know who I am. But today, you can forget about stepping into this cave. The Hell's emissary was enraged as well. He let out a low roar that sounded like the roar of a demon god. Behind him, endless death aura appeared and condensed into an illusion. It was the deep and serene hell. Countless vengeful spirits of hell rushed out from the 9 serenities hell. The terrifying aura made one's scalp tingle. The power of the 9 serenities hell came again with the 2 soul chains. Lin Xian's body surged with a monstrous sword light. Slash. His sword was capable of destroying everything. With a slash of the sword, countless vengeful spirits were all split apart. The 2 soul chains were also sent flying, and cracks appeared on them. The underworld emissary was shocked. Damn it, this kid is so evil. After Lin Xian slashed out, the 9 young divine body bloomed beside him, surrounded by the illusion of 9 suns. The power of the purest young swept in all directions. As soon as this power came out, the 9 serenities hell on the opposite side instantly shook. Black smoke rose from it, and countless vengeful spirits screamed miserably. Damn it, the purest young physique. The underworld emissary's expression changed. This physique was specially used to restrain them. Young man, good. Very good. You have completely offended us. Just wait for the anger of the underworld. This person didn't attack again. His body slowly disappeared and then disappeared. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He didn't care about this threat. Then, he sat down cross-legged again, took out a pill, and swallowed it to recover. 3 days later, he opened his eyes. He felt the second figure coming. That's right, the second underworld emissary had arrived. This person's appearance was similar to the previous one, but his weapon was different. Previously, the other party used the soul chains. This time, the other party was holding a death scythe. The pitch-black death scythe emitted a demonic aura that frightened people from their souls. He turned into smoke and rushed over, arriving in front of Lin Xian in an instant. The death scythe slashed down. Boom! A pitch-black crack was torn in the void, spreading in all directions and enveloping Lin Xian. An extremely terrifying death aura emerged from the other party's body. Lin Xian snorted coldly. He wasn't afraid. He took out the Great Destruction and attacked the death scythe. With a clang, flames danced in the air. However, at this moment, his pupils shrank. He found that there were 4 killing swords behind him, directly attacking him. Assassins, and top assassins at that. Lin Xian's face darkened. These were the assassins of hell, not weaker than those of the mortal world. Puff! The 4 killing swords suddenly attacked, hitting Lin Xian's back, sending Lin Xian flying. Lin Xian's blood boiled. His face turned pale, and his body fell forward. At this moment, the underworld emissary sneered. A black chain appeared in his hand, binding Lin Xian's body, fixing him in mid-air. Ignorant ant, how dare you fight against hell? I'll make you regret it for the rest of your life. The death scythe was raised high and fell down. Puff! Blood splattered, cutting the body in front of him in half. It couldn't withstand a single blow. Looking at the broken body, the underworld emissary sneered and withdrew the death scythe. However, in the next moment, his body trembled, and he lowered his head in disbelief. A black spear pierced through his body, shattering all of his internal organs. Chapter 49-75. How is this possible? The Hellbringer was shocked. Wasn't the kid in front of him cut in half? How could he still attack him? He abruptly turned around and discovered that Lin Xian was completely unharmed. Damn it! How could this be? Could it be a clone? No, it's an illusion. I was hit by an illusion just now. When the Hellbringer saw that pair of cold eyes, he instantly understood. Cold sweat flowed down his forehead. Damn it! This young man's eye technique is so powerful that I fell for it. What made him even more terrified was that he couldn't move at all. His body was pierced by the spear of destruction, and an invincible sword intent surged into his body. It seemed to be able to destroy all the power in his body. You want to suppress me with this kind of strength? What a joke. Lin Xian snorted coldly. The Hellbringer roared crazily. Kid, don't be too proud. No matter how strong a person is, he can't compete with hell. Is that so? I don't know if I can compete with the entire hell, but killing you is as easy as flipping my hand. A terrifying killing intent surged from Lin Xian's body. The Hellbringer's expression changed drastically. You dare to kill me? If you kill me, you'll become the enemy of hell. However, it was useless. No matter how he threatened, he couldn't change Lin Xian's mind. Just as Lin Xian was about to make his move, the sound of a gong rang out from afar. Following that, the entire void shattered. The Hellbringer was stunned. His body was torn to pieces by the sound, turning into black mist and quickly reforming in the distance. Death Taker. Great, you're here. The Death Sickle was very excited. Lin Xian frowned. Is someone coming again? The first 2 took his soul, and the last one took his life. His face darkened. A figure walked out from the front. It was an old man. His face was pale, without a trace of blood. He carried a large black flag on his back and held a gong in his hand. The sound just now came from it. After the old man arrived, he looked at the Hellbringer and frowned. What happened? Did he fail again? This kid is too strange. His soul eye technique is very powerful, and he even knows a terrifying sword intent. Humph, trash. The old man shouted coldly. The Hell's emissary lowered his head and begged for forgiveness. Forget it. I'll do it myself. The old man walked forward, but he didn't enter the cave. He directly struck the gong. Clang. A deep voice rang out, making people feel as if their souls were about to leave their sheaths. Lin Xian also felt his soul tremble. His eyes erupted with radiance as he forcefully suppressed it. At the same time, he roared angrily. Countless dragon-shaped sword chi shot out and slashed forward. Useless brat, with just your sword, you can't use my voice. The old man from hell was very confident, but as soon as he finished speaking, he was slapped in the face. Under the sword chi, his voice quickly became softer and softer before disappearing completely. What's going on? The old man's face darkened. His opponent's sword chi was indeed very strange. No wonder you failed the previous 2 times. You do have some strength. Looks like I have to use some tricks. The black flag on his back shone with a demonic radiance. Then, it transformed into 2 large black hands that reached out to grab him. Lin Xian's eyes were also filled with killing intent. Previously, Xiaojio had said that he would block 3 attacks, which meant that the underworld would send 3 envoys. Now, it was already the 3rd one. As long as he could block this person's attack, there wouldn't be any danger in the underworld for a short period of time. Lin Xian brandished Apocalypse and slashed forward with the dragon-shaped sword Qi, colliding with the large black hands. The large flag suddenly transformed into a black snake and coiled around. Seal! The old man roared angrily. The large black snake transformed into countless seals that covered the sky and earth, sealing everything. Then, the old man sneered and struck the gong in his hand again. Another clanging sound rang out. In his opinion, he had already sealed the other party. His large black flag was also an incredible weapon. It would definitely be difficult for the other party to escape. However, the sound still didn't reach him. Countless black vortexes appeared in the surroundings, directly swallowing these voices. Lin Xian's voice still sounded. You want to seal me with a mere seal? You're too naive. Boom. The apocalypse spear shone brightly as if the black dragon had come alive and tore apart the seals in the sky. The sword Qi on it continued to erupt and soared into the sky. Lin Xian swept out like a peerless sword god. Boom. He charged towards the large black flag. The old man's expression changed. He formed a seal with one hand and waved it behind him. The black flag flew out and danced in the sky, resisting the apocalypse spear. At the same time, the gong in his hand changed direction and charged towards Lin Xian. The soul shattered. The sound changed. Previously, it was the sound of summoning the soul. Now, it was the sound of destroying the soul. Lin Xian felt that his 7 orifices were bleeding and his soul was about to shatter. He released the power of reincarnation and turned it into a reincarnation millstone that crushed out. At the same time, he formed a seal with his palms. Seal of the fearless lion. The berserk lion roared angrily between heaven and earth. Lin Xian opened and closed, fighting a great battle with it. So strong? The scythe-wielding emissary of the underworld was dumbfounded. It seemed that the other party could kill him effortlessly. The old man's expression was even colder. He was actually such a difficult opponent. Was he a top genius? Thinking of that, he was furious. No one has ever dared to stop us, not even the top geniuses. Hell descended. The old man roared angrily. Countless black runes appeared on his body and began to burn. The surroundings instantly darkened, and the 9th underworld descended once again. The emissary of the underworld had used this method before, but its power was 10 times stronger than before. It seemed to have enveloped the entire world. The people of the Temple of the Gods felt that the sky had darkened. A chilly wind blew past, causing their bodies to tremble. The old man of hell seemed to have turned into the god of hell as he looked at Lin Xian. Suppress. 18 levels of hell. Lin Xian felt the ground beneath his feet crack open. It was as if there was a force pulling him underground. He stomped his feet, and the terrifying power of his divine body transformed into a divine dragon that bombarded the crack. At the same time, he soared into the sky. So what if the underworld descended? I'll split it with my sword. The sword Qi in Lin Xian's hand became more and more terrifying. It let out a terrifying dragon roar. Then, he held the sword with both hands and slashed down. Boom! The 9 underworld's underworld began to tremble again, and cracks began to appear on its surface. Then, it split in half from the middle. How could this be? The old man's pupils constricted. He fell to the ground on his back and vomited blood. What kind of sword technique was this? It could split the 9th underworld. It was unbelievable. Lin Xian slashed again, and the old man's body was split in half. He realized that this force was preventing his body from healing. Lin Xian walked over in a domineering manner like a demonic god. All sorts of ultimate skills were unleashed continuously. Aren't you from the underworld? Don't you have the Book of Life and Death? Let's see if you can be resurrected after death. The seal of the fearless lion came down crazily and tore the old man into pieces. Chapter 49:76. Dead. The Hell's emissary with the scythe was terrified. You're finished. How dare you kill someone from the underworld? You're dead meat. He roared in horror and gradually dimmed as if he was about to disappear. Lin Xian's eyes were shining with a terrifying radiance. After obtaining the reincarnation bone, his reincarnation power was even more terrifying. His eyes turned into two blades of reincarnation power. They pierced through the Hell's emissary's body. 6 paths of reincarnation. With a scream, the Hell's emissary disappeared. The two of them were dead. Blood mist danced and turned into 2 blood-red runes, floating towards Lin Xian quickly. This scene was very sudden. Lin Xian was startled. He quickly retreated and slapped forward at the same time. The 2 runes were sent flying. Then, the 2 runes disappeared between heaven and earth, surrounded by black gas again. The ground cracked open, and a black eye suddenly opened. However, the eye seemed to have the light of a demon god, piercing through heaven and earth. It shrouded Lin Xian. Lin Xian was facing a great enemy. He roared and activated the heavenly secret god eyes to the extreme to resist. At the same time, he was shocked. What kind of eye was that? It was too terrifying. In the mansion, Xia Juyo was also alarmed and suddenly came out. When he saw the black eye, his face changed. Hell's evil eye. He quickly retreated and slapped forward. At the same time, the Hell's evil eye also emitted a terrifying gaze. It charged towards Lin Xian. Xia Juyo's palm covered the sky and earth. At this moment, he had recovered a little. The power was really terrifying. In an instant, the Hell's evil eye's gaze was shattered. At the same time, the Hell's evil eye was smashed into pieces and turned into black smoke. Did it disappear? The Hell's evil eye heaved a sigh of relief. Lin Xian, who was behind it, roared angrily. Damn it! He felt that something was wrong. His back was very painful, as if he had been stabbed by something. Xia Jiuyo hurriedly tore off his armor and gasped in shock. A black vertical eye appeared on Lin Xian's back, like a demonic rune. Why would the infernal evil eye appear on Lin Xian? Could it be that he was being targeted? Xia Juyo's brows were tightly knitted together. Lin Xian could naturally sense it as well. His face darkened when he heard that, and he shouted coldly. The great dragon sword spirit in his body spun rapidly, and he attacked the infernal evil eye on his back, trying to cut it into pieces. The infernal evil eye released a terrifying black light to resist the attack. For a moment, it actually blocked the great dragon sword spirit. Lin Xian was even more shocked. What was this? It was so strange. Xia Juyo said that the infernal evil eye was very strange and had existed since the primordial era. Furthermore, it was said that it had existed since the founding of the underworld, so it was very strange. What should he do? Lin Xian furrowed his brows. He hadn't expected hell to be so strange. Xia Juyo took a deep breath. It seemed like he had to make a trip there. Initially, he thought that he could make a trip there alone. I didn't expect to have to bring you along this time. Lin Xian was shocked. Where were they going? Xia Juyo said, to the underworld. The underworld. Lin Xian was even more shocked. Xia Juyo nodded. Originally, I wanted to go there to retrieve something, but now you've been targeted by the infernal evil eye. It seems that you have to make a trip there personally, because that's the only way to deal with the eye on your back. Otherwise, once it acts up, it's very likely to take your life. It's so terrifying. Lin Xian was shocked. Xia Juyo said it was very terrifying. 100,000 years ago, there were 2 people who fought for the throne. Both of them had hopes of becoming a great emperor. However, one of them was targeted by someone from the underworld, and he was struck by the infernal evil eye. Later on, he died mysteriously. Therefore, you have to pay attention to it now. Lin Xian was silent. After a while, he said, I understand. After that, Lin Xian and Xia Juyo began to recover and prepare to head to the underworld. Lin Xian also told Bai Susu and the others to stay here for the time being. He had something to do. The Crimson Dragon asked, Kid, do you need us to go with you? Lin Xian thought for a while and said, "No, I can handle it myself." This time, he didn't know what kind of danger he would encounter in the underworld. Therefore, he still hoped that fewer people would go. Xia Juyo's vitality recovered a lot. He formed a seal with his palms and began to construct a huge spatial array in the void. Lin Xian could feel an extremely terrifying spatial power from it. Needless to say, the teleportation distance this time should be very far. He asked Senior, "Where is the underworld?" Xia Juyo said that in the universe, there was a dark galaxy, and there were endless worlds in it. The underworld was there, and the entire dark galaxy was controlled by the underworld. Lin Xian was shocked. A galaxy? That was really an endless world. The foundation of the underworld was really terrifying. But soon, he thought of another possibility. The heavenly court was not weaker than the underworld. In other words, there must be another galaxy in the universe that belonged to the heavenly court. He originally thought that the resources he had obtained from a few worlds were already a lot, but now it seemed that he was still lacking a lot. However, according to Xia Jiuyo, his world seemed to be more important than all the time in a galaxy. This made Lin Xian even more determined to fully revive the Sword World. After the spatial array was set up, Lin Xian and Xia Juyo walked up and teleported. In an instant, endless spatial cracks appeared in the sky above the true spirit world. Countless people looked up. What was happening? Some people were shocked. Was someone going to teleport so far? Who was it? In that direction? They investigated, but all the phenomena had disappeared. Lin Xian and Xia Juyo had already left the true spirit world. The two of them shuttled through the spatial channel. Every time, the surrounding stars would change, but it was about the same every time. The cold void of the universe was dominated by darkness. The light emitted by the surrounding stars was not enough to illuminate everything. Fortunately, Xia Juyo was too strong, so after a few shuttles, they had already left the true spirit world. However, at this moment, the sky shook and the earth shook. The spatial channel was about to shatter. Not good. Xia Juyo's face changed. Lin Xian said, "Is someone targeting me?" Xia Juyo shook his head. "No, the possibility is very small. I think we must have encountered some special situation. Let's go." They tore through the void and fled quickly. The original spatial channel kept shattering. The two of them appeared in the universe and looked around. Xia Juyo's eyes flickered. They had not arrived yet. Then, he turned his head and looked into the distance. It turned out that they were the ones who destroyed the spatial channel. Lin Xian also looked into the distance. He activated the heavenly secret god eye and found that there was a battle in the distance. Moreover, it was very terrifying. The two sides of the battle were huge monsters. The monster's body was even bigger than a world. Chapter 49-77. On the other side, there were 5 war chariots. They were completely black and carried an extremely terrifying aura of death. The war chariots were being chased. Xia Jiuyo, who was beside him, said that the beast was called the Earth Devil and liked to eat corpses. Needless to say, the 5 war chariots must have been obtained by the underworld. They carried a lot of corpses, which was why the Earth Devil attacked them. Should we charge over or take a detour? Or wait? Lin Xian asked. Xia Juyo thought for a moment. No, I changed my mind. I thought of a better idea. Then, Xia Juyo said this idea. It turned out that he was preparing to hide himself and then let Lin Xian change his identity and aura to get close to the 5 war chariots. Then, he would use the name of joining the underworld and entering the underworld. Every once in a while, the underworld would recruit a batch of geniuses for assessment. If they met the requirements, they would stay for training and become a member of the underworld. Lin Xian would not arouse suspicion if he used this name. Then, Lin Xian asked, after entering, how could he get rid of the evil eye of hell on his back? He could find something related to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. Lin Xian was puzzled. Then, he understood that it was the existence that suppressed the 18 levels of hell. Legend had it that if he did not enter hell, who would? Could it be that he still had to go to the 18 levels of hell? Lin Xian frowned. Xia Juyo said that it was not certain. You might not find Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva personally. You might find his statue or something he used. As for other methods, he was not sure for the time being. However, he could enter the underworld first and investigate. Lin Xian nodded, indicating that he understood. Next, he brought Xia Jiuyo into the sword world and let him continue to recover in the divine spring of life. As for him, he changed his appearance and aura and flew forward. He chose a very good route. He quickly approached one of the war chariots. Everyone, save me. He looked very anxious. The people on the war chariot also frowned. Who are you? Why are you here? Lin Xian said, I was originally teleporting, but I did not expect the space tunnel to shatter. I had no choice but to fall. In the void. Everyone, please give me a hand. The demonic beasts behind us are too terrifying. Why should I help you? The people from the underworld snorted coldly and remained unmoved. They were all cold existences and would not casually help others. Lin Xian said, I know you're from the underworld, because this time, I wanted to join the underworld and become their killer. I'm here for the assessment. Oh, you're here for the assessment. This time, one of the old men raised his eyebrows and looked carefully at Lin Xian. He was a Saint King. Lin Xian said, That's right, Senior. Please let me go up. All right, you come up. There was only one person, so they weren't afraid that it might be a trap. So they opened the chariot and let the person get on. Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. His heart was filled with joy. Great, I finally made it up. What's your name? Where did it come from? The old man began to ask. Lin Xian had already thought about it. He named a star and a family, then said, My name is Lin. Okay, you can go and rest first. Someone will bring you to the assessment later. Lin Xian was brought into the chariot. The chariot was very big, and there was a special room for resting. After entering, Lin Xian found that there were many people staying here. These people's auras weren't as cold, so it was obvious that they were also here to participate in the assessment. When they found out that Lin Xian was also here for the assessment, there was a trace of hostility in their eyes, and even a trace of killing intent. After all, every participant was a competitor. Finally, the 5 chariots escaped the pursuit of the Earth Devil and entered the Dark Star system. This was the territory of the underworld. After entering, everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Then, someone snorted. The Earth Devil was too despicable. When they returned, they would report to the underworld and let the experts of the underworld kill it. Lin Xian was silent at the side. He rarely spoke, but he heard a lot of news and had a better understanding of the underworld. There were countless experts in the underworld. The underworld was created by the Underworld Emperor, so the person with the highest position was the Underworld Emperor. Of course, this position was currently empty because no one had become the Underworld Emperor. Under the Underworld Emperor, there were many terrifying existences, and they were divided into different factions. For example, Yellow Springs, Limbo, Meng Per, the 18 levels of Hell, and the 10 Yama Kings. These were all peak experts. They had huge forces behind them, and they represented different factions. Thus, the entire underworld was formed. After hearing this, Lin Xian was shocked. He secretly compared it with the Heavenly Court and found out that the Heavenly Court had 12 Dao Palaces, Southern Heaven Gate, and Heavenly Soldiers and Heavenly Generals. Other than these, there were definitely other factions. There was also the Purple Palace. It was also incomparably mysterious and terrifying. Lin Xian asked Xia Jiuyo which faction to choose after entering. Xia Jiuyo said that he could choose the 18 levels of Hell or the 10 Yama Kings. That's right. The underworld and the power of reincarnation are somewhat related. You can also borrow this power to cultivate your reincarnation power. If you succeed, when you return to the buried Emperor Star, you can directly ascend the sacred Abyss Tower and participate in the coronation. After hearing this, Lin Xian was stunned. He then took a deep breath and clenched his fists. He didn't expect that he would have such a good opportunity on this trip to the underworld. If he really succeeded, he would be able to catch up to the Dragon Prince and Kuan Pengzi in the shortest time possible. At that time, he would be able to compete with them. Of course, the most important thing now was to remove the infernal evil eye on his back. Lin Xian decided to go to the 18 levels of Hell. After entering, an old man asked Lin Xian and the others where to go. Lin Xian said that after the 18 levels of hell. The old man said, "Wait, someone will take you there very soon." The others also split into several groups according to their own wishes. Many of them walked towards Lin Xian. Clearly, they also wanted to join the 18 levels of hell. The auras and strength of these people were also incomparably powerful. They looked at Lin Xian with disdain. They could tell that Lin Xian's cultivation was inferior to theirs. Moreover, they didn't sense any terrifying killing intent from Lin Xian. Such a person was nothing more than an ant here. He was here to die. Lin Xian and the others had a total of more than 40 people. After waiting for a while, they were taken away. They were brought to another world. These people had to pass the test first before they could join. 2 days later, someone came. A black-robed woman wearing a mask stared at Lin Xian and the others with flickering eyes. She smiled. "I have an extra opportunity here. If anyone wants, they can stay." An extra opportunity. The others' eyes lit up when they heard this. One must know that although they were geniuses from all over the universe, they also knew how difficult it was to join the underworld. Among the 40 people, it would be pretty good if 1/10 of them could pass. In the end, only one person could pass. Now that there was an extra opportunity, how could they not be excited? What kind of opportunity is it? Someone asked. Even Lin Xian looked up in surprise. An extra opportunity? That was interesting. Chapter 4978. The woman in front smiled. "I need 3 cauldrons." As soon as she said that, the expressions of the surrounding people changed. Cauldron Top was not a good job. She would definitely absorb their strength and vitality. In the long run, they would die. Many people quickly shook their heads. Lin Xian also sighed. He would not consider it either. It seemed that he could only participate in the test. The woman in black sneered. "Looks like you guys are not willing. Then I will choose myself. You, and you. The 3 of you come out and follow me." The expressions of the 2 people who had been chosen changed. Even Lin Xian frowned because the other party had also pointed at him. He did not stand up. Instead, he said calmly, "I advise you to choose someone else. Otherwise, you will regret it." "Kid, what did you say? Are you threatening me?" The woman in black turned around and smiled. The people around her also emitted cold killing intent. The surrounding people snorted. Among them, they did not think highly of Lin Xian because Lin Xian's cultivation aura was the weakest. But now, the person they did not think highly of dared to resist. Did he want to die quickly? The other 2 chosen people also shook their heads and sighed. Even people as strong as them did not dare to resist. Where did this kid get his courage from? "I will choose you today. What can you do to me? You are just a newcomer. It is not certain if you can stay here. And I am a member of the underworld. My words are orders. I can control your life. Do you understand? You control me?" Lin Xian laughed coldly when he heard that. "I'm afraid you don't have that right." "Humph. I haven't been here for a long time. Who will teach such a bad-tempered newcomer a lesson?" The woman in black looked at the people around her. This time, she did not come alone. Instead, she brought a group of experts with her. Clearly, her status was not ordinary. "Let me teach him a lesson." A withered old man walked out. Both of his arms were black as ink, and carried an extremely terrifying aura. Dark ghost hands. Many people couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air when they saw this. They hadn't seen it before, but it was like thunder in their ears. This pair of hands was extremely difficult to master. Once it was mastered, a single claw could easily turn a Saint King into ashes. Now that the old man had mastered it, none of them were a match for him. Seeing that someone recognized him, the old man had a smug look on his face. He looked at Lin Xian and smiled. "Kid, are you regretting it now? If you regret it, then obediently kneel down and kowtow to admit your mistake. Then you can still live. Sigh, brother, just accept your fate." Being a cultivation vessel did not necessarily mean death. It would only cause one's cultivation to stagnate. However, it was still better than being killed. The people around them also shook their heads. In their opinion, Lin Xian could not resist at all. Regret? Lin Xian smiled. "Why should I regret it? This kid was really stubborn." The surrounding examinees shook their heads and sighed. They knew that this kid's fate would be very miserable. The expression of the old man in front of him also darkened. Did he refuse a toast? Then I'll make you regret it. He roared angrily and stretched out his black palm. The ghostly hand swept across heaven and earth. Around him, an extremely terrifying phenomenon of heaven and earth appeared. Countless Tao patterns intertwined around him as if they could destroy everything. Retreat quickly. The surrounding examinees felt that their souls were about to be torn apart and retreated in horror. At this moment, an empty space appeared around him. Only Lin Xian was still sitting there. Facing such a terrifying attack, Lin Xian was still not afraid. His eyes flashed with a cold light. He raised a finger and pointed forward. His movements were very light and slow. However, an extremely cold sword light flew out from his fingertip. Boom, boom. The two collided. The ghostly hand was originally unstoppable, but at this moment, it was pierced through. Not only that, this sword light pierced through the palm and charged towards the old man in black. The old man in black's palm was pierced. He screamed and quickly retreated. However, he did not expect that the power this time was far beyond his imagination. In an instant, the sword light was in front of him and directly pierced through his forehead. Poof! He fell on his back and snowflakes appeared on his forehead. Until his death, he did not believe that he would be killed in one move. The surrounding examinees gasped. What was going on? Was he dead? The ghostly hand was broken. Not only that, but the old man was also killed in an instant. How could this be? At this moment, the examinees felt cold all over. They looked at Lin Xian with horror. This was the person they did not think highly of the most, but his power was completely above theirs. The woman in black was also stunned. She did not dare to believe that the people she brought were all experts, especially the old man who attacked. The ghostly hand of darkness had been trained for thousands of years. Its power was so terrifying, but now it was killed. How dare you kill him? The woman in black roared. She was very angry and felt like she had been slapped in the face. Lin Xian snorted coldly. Get lost or die. You. How dare you? The person who dares to go against the Ghost Eye clan has not been born yet. You will definitely die. Attack. Kill him for me. A few more people walked out from behind the woman in black. One of them was a woman who was holding a black bell in her hand. There were a few ghostly heads painted on it. They looked extremely ferocious with green faces and fangs. The bell of the Ghost King. This bell was also able to take away one's vitality. When the four ghostly heads on it shook, they could directly devour the soul and blood of others. It would not take long for them to turn into a skeleton. After the woman took out the bell of the Ghost King, she began to activate it. An extremely terrifying sound, and the four ghostly heads charged towards Lin Xian. In an instant, they enveloped him. The four ghostly heads wanted to devour Lin Xian's body and soul. Humph! Lin Xian sneered. How dare you devour me? He secretly activated the sky-devouring jar. Four black vortexes appeared around him and swallowed the four ghostly heads. The four ghostly heads seemed to have discovered the most terrifying thing and wanted to escape. However, the black vortexes directly enveloped them. In an instant, the strange phenomenon and ghostly heads in the world disappeared. The woman in front of him vomited blood and her face turned pale. How could it be? How could you break it? She was too shocked. Her sacred artifact was broken and she suffered a backlash. She was injured. At this moment, the ground behind Lin Xian split open and a white bone sword pierced towards his back. The attacker was also a skeleton with ghostly fire dancing in its eyes. Hee, kid, go to hell. With his strength, this sword could completely pierce through the opponent. When the opponent was seriously injured, there would only be one outcome, and that was death. In the face of the sure-kill sword from behind, Lin Xian did not even turn his head. It was as if he did not know at all. When the woman in black saw this, the corners of her mouth curled up into a smile. It was over. Although she had lost an expert on her side and seriously injured another expert, that kid was definitely going to die. However, in the next moment, he was stunned because the black-clothed woman's soul suddenly split open, and the originally dim sword chi suddenly erupted. The woman in black was slashed into nothingness. At the same time, a faint voice rang out, "Can you stop the person I want to kill? Damn it! How dare you attack me in front of me?" The old man turned his head, and the killing intent in his eyes continued to erupt. Boundless ghost chi and death chi appeared on his body. His eyes were capable of burning everything. After he came, he said that his granddaughter was absolutely safe. However, the other party instantly slapped him in the face. His granddaughter was killed in front of him. That method was so strange that it shocked him. "Young man, you have completely angered me. I will let you know the taste of living a life worse than death." Those who had fled into the distance retreated again. The front had already become the sacred domain of a great sage. Anyone who entered would instantly be reduced to ashes. They were terrified. "Do you think that kid can still be alive? How is that possible? He will definitely die." No matter how powerful a sage king was, he couldn't compete with a great sage. Not necessarily. If he had a heaven-defying treasure in his hands, he might be able to compete with a great sage. Some people shook their heads. That was an ordinary great sage. They underestimated the Ghostly Eyes clan. Their eyes were extremely terrifying existences in this region. This kid was definitely dead. In front, Lin Xian also stood up and said indifferently, "Your granddaughter is courting death. She deserves to die. I advise you to leave quickly. Otherwise, you will also be buried in the 18 levels of hell with her." "Aunt, you are just a sage king. How do you know the power of a great sage? Even if you are a genius, you are not my match at all. Today, I will let you see the ultimate technique of the Ghostly Eyes clan." That old man. The green flames in his eyes suddenly enlarged, and an extremely terrifying eye technique soul force swept forward. "I will refine your soul into a ghost. I will make you unable to reincarnate forever." Eye technique? Lin Xian smiled. "Coincidentally, I have also cultivated an eye technique. Why don't we have a contest?" Hearing this, the old man's face darkened. "I will send you on your way." The green light in his eyes completely exploded, turning into two balls of ghost fire that flew over. Once a person's soul was enveloped, it would not disappear but be refined into a ghost. There would be no reincarnation. A golden light appeared in Lin Xian's eyes, and the power of reincarnation appeared, turning into two reincarnation tablets. They suppressed forward. Boom. The green flames stopped 1 meter in front of Lin Xian. One of the reincarnation tablets directly suppressed it. The green flames were instantly torn apart. How is that possible? Ghostly Eyes Elder's pupils shrank. He took 2 steps back and spat out a mouthful of blood. His soul was injured. What was with the other party's golden eyes? How could they be so powerful? He knew that he had been careless. The young man in front of him was actually so terrifying. The other party's eye technique did not seem to be weaker than his. Damn it. He gritted his teeth and wanted to attack again, but it was already too late. The other reincarnation tablet was still suppressing him. Damn it. Block it for me. His ghost eye turned into a green flame that surged into the sky and swept up. But in an instant, it was pierced through by the reincarnation tablet. Ghostly Eyes Elder's body was sent flying while spitting out blood. He screamed crazily. His soul was severely injured. His eyes were also bleeding non-stop. Seeing this scene, Lin Xian shook his head. "Your eye technique is really not that good." Damn it. Ghostly Eyes Elder roared crazily. He was actually injured, and his soul was severely injured. He was injured by a young man. He could not bear it. "Who are you? What kind of eye technique are you cultivating?" He roared crazily. Lin Xian snorted coldly. "Ignorant thing, you can't even recognize my eye technique. It seems that you are also an ant." Lin Xian's words completely infuriated the other party. "Kid, just you wait. You are dead meat. I am going to gouge out your eyes. I will make you suffer a fate worse than death." As he spoke, the ghost-eyed old man fled into the distance. Lin Xian snorted. "You still want to leave?" Reincarnation millstone. The heavenly secret divine eyes erupted once again. The gaze inside turned into a millstone that kept spinning. Every time it crushed, heaven and earth would shatter. An extremely strong soul storm swept in all directions. Ghostly Eyes Elder felt that his soul was cracking. They collected the souls of these people. His brows furrowed tightly. It was indeed a young man. Damn it, who was it? Now that she knew his face, he would definitely not let her leave. The Ghost Eye clan mobilized countless experts and began to search for this young man. On the other side, after Lin Xian left that place, he quickly discovered that someone was chasing after him. However, he had already changed his appearance and aura. Therefore, when those people investigated, they didn't find anything. Lin Xian sneered. The people of the Ghost Eye clan didn't find anything either. They gritted their teeth. Someone said that we should send some people to continue the search, and we should also send people to the testing grounds. Didn't those people say that he was here to prepare for the Hell Killer assessment? When the time comes, he will definitely appear for the assessment. As long as we watch from the location of the assessment, when the time comes, we will be able to lock onto the target. Good. The people of the Ghost Eye clan began to move. On the other side, it was time for the assessment to begin. One had to know that there were many people who wanted to join the Hell Killer organization, because once selected, they could learn the supreme killing techniques of the Hell Killer organization. They also had extremely terrifying hidden techniques. These techniques couldn't be detected by ordinary souls at all. As for the killing techniques, they could kill with one strike. It could be said that both were supreme techniques. Because of this, there were many people participating. The dozens of people who were with Lin Xian were only a part of them. The assessment was even more cruel. The assessment was very simple. Win 300 matches in a row. Those who came to participate would fight with each other. As long as they could win 300 matches in a row, they could become a member of the Hell Killer organization. Those who came to participate in the assessment were all top geniuses. Winning 300 matches in a row was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. In other words, the number of people who could pass the assessment in the end would be very few. Actually, this was very normal. For killers, every time they moved out, they would definitely kill. They could kill people who were several levels higher than them. Only when they tried to assassinate Lin Xian would they fail. In other situations, it was rare for him to fail. Many of the heads of the Kill Temple were piled up by great saints. It could be said that they were extremely terrifying. The battle had already begun. There were no rules. After all, they were choosing killers. They could use any secret techniques or martial arts. They could even poison or kill. As long as they failed, they would be seriously injured. It was very likely that they would die. Once the battle began, a bloody mist spread out. Soon, corpses were carried away. The others watched with solemn expressions. They knew that they couldn't be careless. The people from the Killer Temple looked at this scene and smirked. This was the effect they were looking for. The assessment place was called Azura Valley. At the moment, the ground was red and there were countless mountains around the valley. Those mountains formed spectator stands. At the moment, there were some people sitting on the spectator stands. Among them were the people of the Ghost Eye clan. The people of the Ghost Eye clan frowned. So far, they hadn't found the person they were looking for. It wasn't that there weren't any experts here. It was that these experts had been famous for a long time. They were very famous in the underworld. Look at that person. He had won more than 280 battles in a row with a dagger. He was very powerful. Moreover, he wasn't famous. He was unfamiliar and worthy of attention. The people of the Ghost Eye clan stared into the distance. There was indeed a young figure there. His face was ordinary, but his methods were extremely neat. There was another person who had also won more than 280 battles. He was almost at 290 battles. This person wore a blood-red robe and held a blood-red sword in his hand. Every time he stabbed, he could absorb the opponent's blood and soul. It could be said that he was very terrifying. This person was also invincible. Everyone who fell into his hands died. None of them could leave alive. Not only did the people of the Ghost Eye clan notice it, but others also noticed it. Outside the valley, on a mountain peak, a man was sitting there. He was wearing battle armor. His eyes were filled with a sea of blood. He was very terrifying. Beside him was a woman wearing blood-red battle armor. Her face was beautiful, but her eyes were also filled with biting cold killing intent. At this moment, She stretched out her white jade-like hand and pointed in front. Father, look. That person's strength is not bad. Moreover, his sword should be a special saint weapon. They were pointing at the terrifying man with the blood-red sword. Chapter 4981. This person should be called Gue Weep. Blood Fury Saint's eyes flickered. Not bad. If he can achieve 300 consecutive victories and successfully break through, then he can come to my blood slaughter camp. I will train him well. The lady in armor beside him was also laughing. He should be able to break through and complete the test in 10 more battles. The last 10 battles should not be a problem for him. They were waiting. Gue Weep swept his blood sword in all directions. He was a little excited. There were only 10 battles left. Although he knew that it would be more troublesome in the end, he did not care. With his strength, it was not a problem for him to pass the test. Who dares to fight with me? Gue Weep looked in all directions and shouted coldly. The surrounding people were silent. What a joke. If they fought with him, they would only end up dead. Moreover, he had already won 290 battles. Who would dare to fight with such a super expert? Even a normal great saint would not dare to. However, at this moment, a figure walked out from the crowd. He came to the Azura battlefield. Who is it? It must be an expert. If he is still going up, he must be a terrifying person. When they looked carefully, they were stunned. They realized that the person who went up was only a great saint. Moreover, he did not look very strong. Such a person dares to challenge him? Did he want to throw his life away? At this moment, someone from Murdering Palace walked out. He looked like a judge. He said coldly, "You are too weak. We suspect that you are here to give away your battle record. Get lost." The person who went up looked at the judge and smiled. "Senior, if I lose, you don't have to do anything. I will jump down to the 18th level of hell. I will not give away my battle record. I am here to take his battle record." This person was none other than Lin Xian. After Lin Xian killed Ghost Eye Grand Sage, he changed his appearance and aura again and came to the Azura battlefield. After watching some battles, he understood the rules. Therefore, he felt that it was time for him to make a move. The elder from Murdering Palace said, "All right, you said it. If I see that you are not as strong as him, I will not let you go. I won't let you get away with this." The elder warned and retreated to the side. He stared coldly at Lin Xian. He couldn't believe that this man could fight Ghost Weep. Ghost Weep, on the other hand, didn't care at all. She said, "Go ahead. I'll send you to hell." As he spoke, he slashed out with his sword. The overflowing sword light turned into a river, descending between heaven and earth. This was the water of the river of blood, enough to envelop everything. Lin Xian laughed. If the other party dared to act so casually in front of him, he would definitely be at a disadvantage. The boundless law of death in his hand condensed into a law sword. The black sword light cut through the air and slashed forward as well. Whoosh! Clang! The two swords collided. Ghost Weep's smile froze. He felt that his opponent's sword chi was too strong. It swept towards him and enveloped his arm in an instant. In the next moment, the power of death burst out and took away all of the vitality on his arm. One of his arms was reduced to bones. Not only did it have the aura of death, but it also had an extremely strong power that directly cut off his arm. With a blood-curdling scream, he retreated non-stop. His blood splattered onto the Azura battlefield. He was injured. The surrounding people were also stunned. They all widened their eyes in disbelief. Previously, they were speculating. Lin Xian might not even be able to block one sword and would definitely die. But now, the one who was injured was Ghost Weep. The judge squinted his eyes. Fighting above his level? He was a genius. In the distance, on the spectator stand, the Bloodkill Saint was also surprised. He didn't expect another genius to appear. His daughter, Xuelinglong, was beside him. It was really exciting. This should be a fierce battle. "Kid, you have completely angered me." Ghost Weep's arm was found again. This time, there were purple scales on it, as if it was a demonic hand from hell. The strength of his arm was a few times stronger than before. At the same time, the blood sword in his hand released a demonic light as he slashed out. It was as if he had turned into a blood-colored shark, covering the sky and earth. This time, he didn't hold back at all. Lin Xian waved the law sword, which had an extremely sharp aura. There was also a deep roar, which was the sound of a dragon. Clang! There was an intense collision sound. Then, Ghost Weep retreated again. His demonic arm was also trembling nonstop. The light on the blood sword dimmed. There were even cracks that appeared. This caused his pupils to contract fiercely. Damn it! What terrifying power! What sharp sword chi! Who are you? He spoke in a deep voice. His opponent was so powerful, it was impossible for him to be unknown. If you want to know who I am, let's see if you are qualified. If you can make me retreat, I will tell you my name. You are courting death. How dare you look down on me? Azure Dragon goes to sea. The blood-colored sword was waved non-stop, turning into a sea of blood. Countless sword chi flew out from the sea of blood. The scene was like countless azure dragons going to sea. It was also an absolute art, and it was a sure kill move. This time, his opponent couldn't escape at all. He could only take it head-on. The others held their breaths in the face of such a terrifying sword. Would Lin Xian be able to withstand it? Lin Xian, on the other hand, burst into laughter. What kind of dragon is this? Let me tell you what a real dragon should be like. Behind Lin Xian, 10,000 dragon phantoms appeared, letting out a terrifying dragon roar. Around him, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Then, each of the dragon phantoms shot out a sword light, which covered the sky and the earth. The two killer moves collided again, and the entire Azura battlefield was completely destroyed. Countless black holes were floating between heaven and earth. How was the battle? Everyone was extremely nervous. Even the experts from Killer Temple, Saint Bloodkill, and the others were curious and looking forward to it. After the sword, the black holes between heaven and earth slowly disappeared. Then, everyone was shocked. In the next moment, they exclaimed. They realized that Lin Xian stood there without retreating or moving. On the other side, Ghost Weep had indeed retreated far away, and there were many sword wounds on his body. Saint Blood dripped from his wounds. Ghost Weep was injured again? Everyone exclaimed. Ghost Weep's face became extremely ugly. This person's strength was actually above his. Right now, his entire body was trembling. The sword chi was extremely cold. He couldn't recover from his injuries? Damn it, was he going to lose today? Just as he was thinking, Lin Xian took a step forward. Take my sword. If I can't survive, I won't attack again. The sword of law in Lin Xian's hand suddenly burst out with a terrifying light, as if it had turned into a true peerless divine sword, flying forward. Not good. Ghost Weep's face changed. Even Linglong Shui stood up abruptly. The Bloodkill Saint also frowned. The power of this sword had shocked even him. Chapter 4982. Father, aren't you going to stop it? Linglong Shui asked. She could tell that if Ghost Weep couldn't block this sword, he might die. It would be a pity for such a genius to die. Saint Bloodkill's expression was solemn. He said that since the Azura battlefield opened, no saint's item had been used to stop it. If Ghost Weep could block it, it meant that he was a genius. If he couldn't, then he deserved it. Linglong Shui sat down. Indeed, there had been geniuses who had died before. Whether they could survive or not would depend on the other party's ability. However, before they could say anything, the people from the Killer Temple roared and told them to stop. But it was too late. The sword was already in front of Ghost Weep. Ghost Weep roared and used his injured body to attack with all his might. Ghost God's hand, Heaven's wrath. A thunderous sword pierced through the 9 heavens. Tens of thousands of lightning bolts descended from the sky and swept across. In the sea of lightning, there was a roar. It made one's scalp go numb. Damn it, I can't accept this. Everyone was terrified. They could tell that it was Ghost Weep's voice. Could it be that Ghost Weep was defeated? When the sea of sword light and lightning disappeared, everyone was stunned. Ghost Weep was nowhere to be seen. There was only a purple arm holding a broken sword. The rest had disappeared. Is he dead? Linglong Shui exclaimed. Saint Bloodkill sighed. What a pity. A man from Killer Temple stood up with a gloomy face. He stared at Lin Xian. I said stop. Can't you understand? It was obvious that more than one person thought highly of Ghostweep. It was a pity for such a genius to die. Lin Xian said. Senior's stop was a little too late. Moreover, when I participated in the test, no one told me that I couldn't kill anyone here. This Ghostweep won more than 290 battles and killed 290 geniuses. I didn't see anyone telling me to stop. You. That expert's face turned green. What a sharp-tongued kid. I want to see how far you can go. Senior, you don't have to worry. Lin Xian smiled faintly. After killing Ghostweep, all of Ghostweep's achievements would be his. He looked around. There were still 10 battles left. Who was willing to fight with him? Following that, more and more people went up. Lin Xian fought against them and won 5 rounds in a row. This shocked everyone. He was just too powerful. However, the Blood Overlord frowned slightly. This person seemed to be a little too arrogant. However, at this moment, someone in the distance said, I think it's normal. Geniuses were all prideful, and he was clearly a genius who was stronger than Ghostweep. It was normal for him to have a bit of a temper and pride. Many people were shocked when they heard this. Who would dare to refute the Blood Fiend Saint? When they turned around, they were surprised to see that it was the Soul Sage. The Blood Fiend Saint squinted his eyes. Was an old friend here? He, the Bloodkill Saint, controlled the Blood Evil camp and had countless powerful assassins. The Soul Sage Monarch had the same status as him. Furthermore, the Soul Sage Monarch also controlled a faction called the Soul Sage Monarch, which also had countless killer saints. The two sides were in a competitive relationship, and they even had some conflicts because of a certain mission. He didn't expect to meet the Soul Sage Monarch here. The Bloodkill Saint said, Oh, Brother Soul, could it be that you think highly of this kid? After greeting the Soul Sage Monarch, Xue Linglong also bowed. Although there were conflicts between the two sides, the other party was still a senior, and they had to be polite on the surface. The Soul Sage Monarch was a middle-aged man without a beard. No one outside would have thought that he was a terrifying killer saint. Beside him was a young man. It was his son, Soulcliff. He sat down nearby and smiled. That's right, I do think highly of this young man. I feel that he hasn't used his full strength. Is that so? Since we have different opinions, why don't we have a bet? Whose foresight is better? I feel that he will definitely lose the next 5 rounds. He won't be able to pass the test. Then I will bet that he will win. The Soul Sage Monarch smiled. I just got a piece of hellfire. If brother wins, I will give you the piece of hellfire. All right. The Bloodkill Saint also smiled. I also got a spiritual pearl that is very helpful for soul power. If brother wins, I will give you the soul pearl. The surrounding people were shocked. The two saints actually had a conflict because of a young man. However, some people knew that it had nothing to do with Lin Xian. The two saints already had conflicts, and this was just another fight. Both of them wanted to suppress the other, but no one knew who would win this time. Thinking of this, they all looked at Lin Xian. Everything depended on this kid. Xue Linglong smiled and stood out. She looked at the candidates in the distance and said, My Lord Father said, in the next 5 rounds, my Lord Father will accept whoever wins him as his disciple. Once these words were spoken, countless people were in an uproar. They all knew this woman in crimson clothes. She was Xue Linglong, the precious daughter of the Bloodkill Saint. Her words were the Bloodkill Saint's words. Could it be that the Bloodkill Saint had a grudge with the kid below? Many people's eyes instantly turned red. If they could defeat the kid on the stage, then they could become the Bloodkill Saint's disciple. The Bloodkill Saint was a late-stage great saint. His strength was unparalleled. His assassination technique was even more unpredictable. It was said that he had never failed. Lin Xian furrowed his brows tightly as he lifted his head and looked into the distance. There was a figure sitting there. He was surrounded by a mountain of corpses and a sea of blood. He was abnormally terrifying, like a killing god. Had he seen this person before? Had he offended this person? He didn't think so. Why was the other party targeting him? On the viewing platform, the Soulkill Saint squinted his eyes. Hunya, who was at the side, said that the senior was unscrupulous. The Soulkill Saint shouted angrily and shut his mouth. Is the sage someone that you can judge? That young man's face changed and stood up. It was my Lord Father. I was wrong. Please forgive me, Bloodkill Saint. The Bloodkill Saint laughed. It was normal for a young man to be angry. However, it was normal for him to say that he was unscrupulous. Therefore, whether he could pass the next 5 rounds or not would depend on his fate. The Bloodkill Saint didn't avoid such methods. In his opinion, this was the most normal thing. In the past, he had done even more unimaginable things to assassinate his enemies. In his opinion, it was fine as long as he could succeed. After Schwellinglong's words and went out, those candidates had already started to discuss. Another figure walked out. Kid, I originally wanted to preserve my strength and didn't plan to make a move on you. However, I didn't expect such a situation to happen. All right, then I will show my true strength. You should obediently admit defeat. Otherwise, you will definitely die. Chapter 4983. It was Spirit Bloodchild. Many people exclaimed when they saw the young man walking over. Obviously, he was a very famous person. He was even more famous than Ghostweep. They did not expect that even he would be alarmed this time. That guy had hidden his strength very well. No one knew his full strength. Exclamations of surprise sounded one after another. Are you here to die? Lin Xian laughed loudly. Do you think you'll be able to live to take the best offer? Ignorant ant. Spirit Bloodchild was furious. How could the other party know his strength? He snorted coldly, waved his bloody hands, and pounced forward. With a crack, the entire world was torn apart by him. Mountains of corpses and seas of blood surrounded him. Countless living beings had been killed by his hands. Lin Xian also struck out with his palm. His palm was extremely simple and did not seem to emit any light. Lin Xian had deliberately used that move. After all, he was going to use the 9-yang body, which might alarm these people. There were not many self-strengthening physiques in the starry sky, so he did not want to attract any attention here. Do you know that an ant wants to compete with me in terms of physique? How many saints have I broken with my hands? You're next. Spirit Bloodchild sneered and attacked even faster. With a clang, he slapped the other party's palm. Break your hand. However, the other party's hand did not break. The other party's palm was like a peerless divine weapon that stopped him. You're the one who doesn't know what's good for you. Lin Xian exerted force with his palm, and with a crack, he broke the other party's bloody claws. Spirit Bloodchild screamed and retreated. His bones were exposed from his wounds. Spirit Bloodchild gritted his teeth and roared. Meanwhile, Lin Xian took a step forward. Take my claw too. He stretched out his hand, and this time, it seemed to have turned into a dragon claw that covered the sky. Dragon claw hand. Get lost. Spirit Bloodchild's broken palm regenerated, and he struck out with both palms, stirring up a sea of blood. Boom. He was sent flying backward like a kite with a broken string. Countless people were in an uproar when they saw that. Spirit Bloodchild was very powerful, but he was defeated in 2 moves. Who would dare to go up? Lin Xian stood with his hands behind his back, inadvertently glancing at the mountain peak in the distance. On the mountain peak, Linglong Shui was instantly enraged. She said, This brat is challenging you, father. Why don't I teach him a lesson? Bloodfiend Saint waved his hand. Linglong, sit down quietly and watch patiently. He snorted coldly in his heart. What an interesting kid. Obviously, the other party seemed to have understood what was going on, but so what? He was merely using his opponent to fight against the Soul Sage Monarch. In the end, his only opponent was the Soul Sage Monarch. This kid in front of him was no different from an ant in his eyes. Blood Spirit Child left in a sorry state. He had come here arrogantly and left with his tail between his legs. It was truly embarrassing. However, everyone knew that it wasn't that Schwellingzi was weak. It was that the young man in front of them was too strong. Who could suppress him? From what I can tell, this guy has the battle prowess of a great sage. Indeed, this young man was very powerful. Countless discussions could be heard. On another mountain peak, the people of the Ghost Eye clan also narrowed their eyes. An elder said, Do you think he looks like this kid? Another elder nodded. He does look like him. An unfamiliar face, super strength, and ruthless means. If the people of our Ghost Eye clan really had any ideas about him, he might have killed them mercilessly. Perhaps he really did do it. Test him. Send someone down. See if he has the mark of our Ghost Eye clan on him. An elder instructed. Another elder said, I think we should just kill him. It's better to kill by mistake than to let him go. Everyone nodded and looked at a man behind them. Go ahead. That man said respectfully, Yes, elder. His figure floated down. The surrounding people were silent. They thought that no one would dare to challenge Lin Xian again. But now, someone else went up. Many people looked over. When they saw the pair of gray eyes, they exclaimed. It was the Ghost Eye clan. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. Was it someone from the Ghost Eye clan? How could he not know? He had killed a great sage of the Ghost Eye clan. What was the meaning of this person coming at this time? Was he here to test him? Or was he here to suppress him? After Ghost Eye clan's Ghost Eye clan's Ghost Eye clan's Ghost Eye technique, he began to investigate. When Lin Xian saw this, he instantly understood. The other party was suspecting him. But so what? The other party couldn't find anything. As expected, Ghost Eye frowned slightly. He couldn't find anything. But the elders said that it was better to kill by mistake than to let him go. He wouldn't show mercy. His eyes emitted a gray light like an abyss. At the same time, a terrifying aura spread forward. Become my ghost servant. Ghost Eye revealed a sinister smile. His strength was definitely not something that this person in front of him could resist. The surrounding candidates also kept retreating. They felt as if their souls were being burned by a raging fire. It was too terrifying. This person was an expert in eye techniques. It's over. That kid is in danger. Lin Xian's lips curled into a cold smile. Competing with him in eye techniques? Even the great sage of the Ghost Eye clan was defeated, let alone this person. A cold radiance appeared in his eyes as he charged forward. The soul power of both parties clashed in the air, tearing everything apart. Although both of them stood still, everyone knew that this kind of attack was even more dangerous. The slightest carelessness would cause both their soul and heart to be destroyed. He actually knew soul power. It seemed even more suspicious. Ghost Eye snorted. Just as he was about to gather all his strength, the next moment, his eye technique was instantly torn apart. A terrifying aura poured into his mind. It caused his soul to sway. Damn it. He wanted to resist, but the energy strengthened and turned into a human figure. It was like a god looking down on him. Those golden eyes made him want to kneel down and submit. With a plop, he knelt on the ground. When the surrounding people saw this, they were in an uproar. The top expert of the Ghost Eye clan actually knelt down. What was going on? Some of the experts who were watching were shocked. Was his eye technique defeated? Ghost Eye clan was defeated. What kind of soul power did this kid use? When they wanted to investigate, the golden light in Lin Xian's eyes had disappeared. On the mountain peak, the elders of the Ghost Eye clan saw this scene and suddenly stood up. Each of them was shocked. Damn it! Ghost Eye! Stand up! They shouted angrily. The other party knelt down. This was a disgrace to their clan. However, Ghost Eye was incomparably respectful at this moment. He was completely controlled and did not care about other voices at all. Lin Xian stretched out his hand and knelt over. Ghost Eye crawled on the ground and crawled to Lin Xian's feet. Lin Xian laughed out loud. The others were even more shocked. However, the two elders could not hold it in anymore. They released a terrifying aura, and their piercing gazes shot over. Kid, do you want to die? The other party was challenging them. Chapter 4984. Boom. Their killing intent was shattered by the soul sword in midair. The soul sage said indifferently, "Since when were outsiders allowed to interfere in the Azura battlefield? Are you guys trying to break the rules?" The soul sage looked over, causing the two elders of the Ghost Eye race to tremble. Even though they were great sages as well, they were still far from being comparable to the soul sage. The two of them shook their heads. No, they wouldn't dare. One of them said, "Soul sage, please calm down. I suspect that this kid has ambushed one of our geniuses and one of our great sages. We would like to request for a soul search." The moment these words came out, Countless people were in an uproar as they looked at Lin Xian. This kid had killed a great sage before? Lin Xian stood there and laughed coldly. Why? Just because I defeated a genius of your family, you guys want to frame me? The ghost eye race was truly despicable. Was this how the underworld treated geniuses? What a disappointment. Enough. The soul sage snorted coldly. Ghost eye race, don't let others laugh at you. This test is for the top geniuses. Do you have any proof that he killed your great sage? No. The two of them gritted their teeth and sat down with cold faces. One of them sent a voice transmission. Kid, do you think you can be arrogant just because you have the protection of the soul sage? Just you wait. I'll see how you die after the Azura battlefield. This was a warning to Lin Xian. Lin Xian laughed coldly and sent a voice transmission as well. You two old things. I'm the one who killed your great sage. Come and bite me if you're unhappy. The moment the two of them heard this, their eyes widened. They stood up once more and were filled with killing intent. Damn it. However, they didn't dare to make a move. Now that Lin Xian had displayed such a strong talent, the soul sage thought highly of him. If they were to make a move now, they would be courting death. However, they would definitely not let this kid off. Since this kid was the one who did it, they would pay any price. Next, Lin Xian passed all the tests and successfully completed 300 rounds. Seems like I've won. The soul sage looked at this scene and chuckled. The bloodkill sage also said, You've really opened my eyes. To think that the underworld would have such a genius. This time, I admit defeat wholeheartedly. It wasn't that he didn't have good foresight, but that Lin Xian was just too talented. Such a person was very rare. His appearance here really surprised him. However, he made up his mind that he would not let this genius go. He didn't want to kill the other party. Instead, he wanted to take the other party under his wing and make him a capable subordinate. At this moment, Soul Sage Lord stood up and said. Lin Xian turned around and looked. He knew that this great sage late was very strong. He took a deep breath. The infernal evil eye on his back was sealed by Xia Juyo. He knew that the underworld was just an experience for him. It was just like in other worlds. The cultivation speed here was even faster than in the Saint Origin Ancient City. It wasn't that the resources in the Saint Origin Ancient City were poor. It was just that the ancient city had all kinds of protection. Prison was a place that existed specifically for assassinations. Here, killing was very common. It could be said that every martial artist's life was on the verge of death. They might not be able to see the sun the next day. Under such circumstances, it was very easy to break through one's limit. When all the candidates were done, Lin Xian and the ordinary youth were invited over. Lin Xian went to the mountain peak. After greeting the two seniors, Lin Xian looked at the two sages and bowed. The two sages nodded. Young man, you don't have to be so polite. We still don't know how to address you. My name is Lin Wudi. Lin Wudi. What an arrogant name. The two sages were greatly surprised. Even they didn't dare to call him Wudi. Xueling Long stared at him carefully. Even Hunya did the same. The two of them also introduced themselves. The three of them were familiar with each other. At this time, Hunya said, Lin Gongzi, come join us. We will give you the best treatment and let you grow quickly. Xueling Long also stood up and said, What you have, our blood evil camp also has. Obviously, the two sides started to argue. Lin Xian looked calm as if it had nothing to do with him. The two sages were shocked when they saw this scene. Hunya said, This matter isn't urgent. The winner still has a chance to go to the underworld fire to train. It won't be too late to talk about it after the training. Hunya's expression changed when he heard this. Even Xueling Long looked over and asked, Lin Gongzi, are you willing to join the underworld fire to train? Chapter 4985. What was the power of hellfire? Lin Xian asked curiously. It was a test of willpower. Linglong Shui said that hellfire was a strange land of flames in hell. The flames there could burn the 9 heavens and melt everything. After entering, one would have to endure a heart-wrenching test. If one's physique was strong enough, they would be able to withstand it. However, no matter how strong one's physique was, they would not be able to withstand it for a long time. What was left was a test of willpower. To become a killer of hell, one had to have a strong willpower. One had to be able to deal with any situation calmly. Hellfire was specially prepared for the victors of the 300 battles. Lin Xian's eyes lit up when he heard this. He did not care about the test of willpower. After all, he did not plan to become a killer saint. What he cared about was that Linglong Shui said that he could cultivate his physique. After cultivating the 9-yang divine body to this point, it was very difficult to find a magical flame. Hellfire was obviously unique to hell. Therefore, he did not plan to miss it. He nodded. Naturally, he was willing. Next, Lin Xian was invited to rest. 3 days later, he would have to cultivate Hellfire. Hellfire would open every once in a while. Only those who passed the test could enter. In addition, some of the original geniuses of Hell could also enter. For example, Linglong Shui, Hunya, and the others were completely qualified. In addition to them, there were also some others. In short, there were quite a number of people. However, it was not certain who would be able to last until the end. 3 days later, Hunya and Linglong Shui both came to invite Lin Xian. The three of them walked towards Hell Canyon together. It was an extremely terrifying canyon that split the earth into 2 halves. There were extremely terrifying flames spreading within. It was hellfire. At this moment, there were already many people standing outside the canyon. Some of them were like Lin Xian. They were victors who had passed the test. There were also some local powerhouses like Linglong Shui and Hunya. These people were gathered together. In addition, there were a few older powerhouses who were in charge of guarding. When they saw Lin Xian and the others arrive, many people looked over, especially Lin Xian. Among them, there was a person with a venomous gaze. He stood out and said, "You're just an ant. What right do you have to stand with us geniuses? Get lost." Many people were in an uproar when they heard this. Ant? How could this Lin Xian be an ant? However, no one dared to get angry because the one who spoke was a genius from the Ghost Eye clan. The Ghost Eye clan was a top-notch clan, and no one dared to provoke them. However, Linglong Shui snorted coldly. Lin Gongzi had won 300 consecutive battles and entered based on his strength. If you call him an ant, then what are you? If you have the ability, go and get a 300 win streak first. Don't think that you can be arrogant here just because you're from a family. The genius of the Ghost Eye clan was so angry that he almost vomited blood. On the other side, Ghostly, who was in the crowd, had an ugly expression on his face. Right now, the seal on his soul had been undone. However, when he found out about that day, he actually knelt. He had lost all his face. When he saw Lin Xian this time, he was filled with murderous intent, but he didn't dare to make a move. This was because Exquisite Blood and Soulcliff were standing beside Lin Xian. These two people were very powerful, and their identities were very high. They were the descendants of sages. Who dared to provoke them? Therefore, the Ghost Eye clan had been slapped in the face in front of everyone, and they couldn't retaliate. Humph, I want to see if you can withstand the burning of the hellfire. They gritted their teeth. Lin Xian walked out and said, "What? Are some of you not convinced by me? I'll stand here and give those who are not convinced a chance. If anyone can make me take a step back, I'll let them do whatever they want with me. If they lose, I'll destroy their soul. Do you dare?" A cold voice sounded. Everyone's scalps went numb. No one dared to gamble with their lives. When he saw that everyone was silent, Lin Xian snorted and walked back. All right, at this moment, an elder said, "It's about to begin." Everyone took a deep breath. Was the hellfire finally going to be activated? Lin Gongzi, let's go. Exquisite Blood smiled. Lin Xian nodded. His figure flashed as he walked toward the canyon ahead. In the next moment, Exquisite Blood and Hunya also rose into the air. In an instant, they entered the canyon. After these people entered, another figure walked over from afar. This person was riding a warhorse. The warhorse was fiery red, and there were terrifying black flames burning on it. It was unusually mighty. On the warhorse, there was a figure in armor. He was even more handsome. The arrival of this man caused the elders to walk up. They didn't expect the young master to come. The few of them bowed respectfully. The man smiled. "It's nothing. I heard that a few days ago, an interesting guy appeared during the assessment. so I came to take a look. An interesting guy. The elders were stunned. Then, they thought of someone. Wasn't it that little guy? It was said that he was very powerful. He even made the Ghost Shadow clan kneel. Lin Xin didn't know about what happened above. After he entered, he felt an extremely terrifying force enveloping him. It was as if it wanted to burn him to ashes. What a terrifying hellfire. Lin Xin wasn't frightened. Instead, he was very happy. Only such flames could make his physique stronger. Lin Xin was not the only one who felt it. The other people felt it as well, and their expressions turned extremely grim. They had just entered, and it was already so terrifying. The flames below would probably be even more terrifying. What followed next would be a torment. Exquisite Blood smiled. When I saw them, I was about to cry. Only you, young master, are happy. It's really surprising. Lin Xin said, aren't I here to gain experience? The stronger I am, the more I can improve. Mysterious runes flickered on his physique. He didn't stop them. Instead, he allowed the flames to burn. Hunya said, young master, the hellfire is more terrifying as we go down. My father collected hellfire before, so I refined it in advance. It can be used. If you feel that it's too much for you during the descent, then stop immediately. Don't take the risk. Exquisite Blood nodded. That's right, young master. We've all felt it before. It's your first time here, so you might not be able to withstand it. So, you can cultivate at a higher altitude. Although the two of them seemed to be concerned about Lin Xian, they still felt that although Lin Xian was strong, he was still a little weaker than the two of them. That was why they were able to speak such words. Lin Xian smiled. He didn't explain anything. He said, all right, I'll listen to the two of you. If I feel that I can't bear it during the descent, then I'll stop. With that, the three of them descended. Because they didn't know why Yin Tianfeng was looking for him. Yin Tianfeng's lips curled into a smile. Where did he go? Bring me to him. On the other side, Lin Xian walked quickly through the hellfire, the surrounding flames burning on his body. However, he remained expressionless. Behind him, Linglong Shui and Hunya caught up. Their faces were pale. Hunya said, Lin Gongzi, slow down. We know your strength. Linglong Shui also smiled and said, Sir, your physique is too strong. This is the hellfire. The two of us can't take it anymore. At this point, the two of them smiled bitterly. Previously, they had kindly reminded Lin Xian that he couldn't handle the hellfire. However, it seemed that they might be the ones who couldn't handle it. Lin Xian smiled and said, I'm also a little tired. Let's cultivate here for a while. The surrounding flames weren't bad, so Lin Xian decided to stay for a while. Linglong Shui and Hunya were naturally willing. If they continued, they really couldn't take it anymore. Hence, the three of them sat there cross-legged. They allowed the hellfire to envelop their bodies and began to refine their physiques. It was tempering their willpower. After a while, Lin Xian opened his eyes and looked into the distance. He felt a powerful aura surging over. Who was it? Soon, he saw a figure descending. There were many people, but the one walking at the front was a warhorse. The warhorse was surrounded by black flames. There was a figure sitting on the warhorse. He was also extraordinarily mighty. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. The hellfire here was already so terrifying. The others were as if they were facing a great enemy. Their faces were pale. However, this person looked calm. It was obvious that he didn't take it seriously at all. This person was very strong. He was secretly on guard. It seemed that the underworld also had experts. After all, the underworld occupied an entire galaxy. Moreover, it was a very ancient inheritance. It was also an existence that had come out of the land. How could there not be any top geniuses? Would there be any emperor-like existences this time? Lin Xian was looking forward to it. Linglong Shui and Hunya also sensed something. They turned around and cried out in surprise. Yin Tianfeng, he's here too? Lin Xian asked. Was this person very famous? Very famous. He was also a top genius. Previously, 5 sages were chasing after him. In the end, he killed 5 sages in a row and became famous. His strength was very terrifying. Lin Xian was also surprised. His eyes lit up. This man didn't seem to be a great sage yet, but he had the strength to kill 5 great sages in a row. He was indeed a top expert. Yin Tianfeng also saw Lin Xian and the others. He stared at Lin Xian, and a cold light flashed in his eyes. Was he such a person? Interesting. His physique was completely different. Yin Tianfeng naturally noticed that Lin Xian was different. Hence, the light in his eyes was also extremely bright. Lin Xian stood up and said, "Can the two of you continue?" Linglong Shui and the others took a deep breath and said yes. Of course. How could they admit defeat so easily? Although they all wanted to rope in Lin Xian, they were all geniuses and had their own pride. If Lin Xian could leave, they could naturally leave too. All right, let's continue. Lin Xian continued to descend. The people behind saw this scene, and their scalps went numb. Damn, this kid is really ruthless. Isn't he afraid that his body will split open? I want to see how far he can descend. It won't take long for him to come up obediently. However, after a long time, Lin Xian and the others still didn't come up. Those people were shocked. Could it be that this kid's physique was really that strong? Yin Tianfeng sneered. He also rode his warhorse and descended quickly. The others were hesitating whether to go or not. They couldn't take it anymore. Some took out their Dharma treasures, while others swallowed pills. They walked over to take a look. They couldn't take it lying down. These people all used their own methods. However, their speed was hundreds of times slower than Lin Xian, Yin Tianfeng, and the others. Chapter 4987. Lin Xian stopped again. Feeling the aura here, even he was shocked. The hellfire in the surroundings had already begun to transform into various kinds of demonic beasts that were crawling in the surroundings. Some were even charging towards them. Linglong and Hunya were facing a great enemy. They knew they couldn't continue. Lin Xian also said that they should stay here for a long time. Yin Tianfeng also came here. He stopped and started to comprehend too. The hellfire around him started to condense and burn. Soon, an illusion appeared. After the hellfire was refined, it formed 9 hellfire dragons behind him. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws, rushing towards the sky. A terrifying roar was heard, resounding in all directions. The people who had rushed over were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. This was a vision of heaven and earth. Yin Tianfeng was too powerful. He tamed the hellfire not long after he arrived. To form such a vision of heaven and earth, they looked at the godlike existence with endless fear and envy in their eyes. Linglong and Hunya were shocked too. To be honest, they didn't have such skills. Yin Tianfeng was really too powerful. The two shook their heads and sighed. Not to mention them, no one here could surpass Yin Tianfeng. At this moment, Yin Tianfeng walked forward. He came to Linglong and Hunya's side. Linglong and Hunya felt as if they were facing a great enemy. The 9 hellfire dragons behind them gave them a lot of pressure. They said coldly, "What do you want? Do you want to fight here?" Yin Tianfeng looked at the two and shook his head. His gaze landed on Lin Xian. "You're the one who made the Ghost Eye clan kneel, right? Looks like you're just so. I thought you'd be a powerful guy. You've disappointed me." As soon as these words were spoken, many people cried out in surprise. Even Linglong and Linglong frowned. Was Yin Tianfeng here for Lin Xian? Lin Xian frowned when he heard this. He turned around and said, "Are you here for the Ghost Eye clan?" Yin Tianfeng smiled. "The Ghost Eye clan can't afford to hire me." Lin Xian frowned. "Then who are you? Do I know you?" With that, he closed his eyes and ignored the other party. He was just a guy who thought he was infallible. It can't be. This brat is so bold that he dares to ignore Yin Tianfeng. Ha ha ha. He's dead meat. Who did he think he was? Just because he had a 300 win streak, he could behave atrociously in front of Yin Tianfeng Peak? He was too naive. Yin Tianfeng was able to kill 5 saints consecutively. How powerful was he? If he wanted to kill the other party, he could probably do it with a wave of his hand. Linglong Shui and the other two frowned. Although they knew that Lin Xian was strong, he was still lacking compared to Yin Tianfeng. However, they believed that Lin Xian's future would be terrifying. Linglong Shui said. In Tianfeng, what do you want? Lin Gongzi is our guest. So what if he was your guest? If he was your father, I would still be courteous to him. But you? It was useless. The two of you combined won't even be enough for me to fight with one hand. Yin Tianfeng's face was full of arrogance. He did not give them any face at all. Linglong Shui clenched her teeth. Damn it! How dare you look down on us? Hunya said. Stop. Don't fight with him. We can't beat him. Linglong Shui and the other two were furious. However, they stayed by Lin Xian's side. It seemed that if Yin Tianfeng really wanted to attack, they would also use some tricks. Yin Tianfeng's face was a little gloomy. Although he did not care about Linglong Shui and the other two, Lin Xian in front of him really made him angry. Did Lin Xian really ignore him? What a joke. Since when did he dare to be ignored? Brat, I heard that you are favored by two saints. You are very talented. Now, it seems that you are just Ozo. Can you be stronger than me? The 9 hellfire dragons behind him roared into the sky, releasing terrifying flames. Linglong Shui and the other two kept retreating. Their faces were pale. Damn it, this guy is too arrogant. The others were also shocked. He was too strong. Yin Tianfeng alone was enough to suppress the myriad of worlds and make all the geniuses lose their brilliance. Facing such a terrifying phenomenon, Lin Xian smiled faintly. It was just a little fire control technique. What was there to be proud of? He really did not understand. There was a tinge of disdain in his words. Yin Tianfeng was furious. A little trick? Do you know how hard it is to control the hellfire? How hard it is to subdue? Do you know that other than me, no one else can control the hellfire? You actually said it was just a little trick? Seems like your standards are too low. I am actually interested in trash like you. What a waste of my time. Yin Tianfeng's expression was extremely cold. To him, this person in front of him was just a rumor. He was not worthy of his attention. Lin Xian said, Why? Am I wrong? How hard is it to control the hellfire? The surrounding people were stunned. Was Lin Xian really going to continue challenging Yin Tianfeng? Yin Tianfeng's face darkened. You said it was not hard to control? You control it. Let me see. If you can condense a hellfire dragon, I will acknowledge you. Acknowledge me? Who do you think you are? Do I need your acknowledgement? Lin Xian smiled. Since your standards are low, I will show you what a real hellfire dragon is. Lin Xian turned around. His eyes were dazzling. You overestimate yourself. Yin Tianfeng sneered. The 9 hellfire dragons behind him made him look like the god of hell. The surrounding people sneered. This kid also wanted to condense a hellfire dragon. What a joke. Hellfire was so hard to fight against. Other than a few experts who could rely on their physiques, the others had already surpassed their limits. Hence, they took out their magic treasures to defend themselves. Some even took secret pills to be able to come here. Chapter 4988. Lin Xian was surrounded by 300 hellfire dragons. He looked at Yin Tianfeng and smiled faintly. Do you still think you're high and mighty? Yin Tianfeng's face turned extremely pale. His face was filled with fear. Impossible. The 9 fire dragons behind him began to crumble under the suppression of the 3,000 hellfire dragons. Damn it, what did you do? You can't condense so many. He was really crazy. 3009, how many times was that? Could it be that Lin Fan was a few hundred times stronger than him? What a joke. He wouldn't believe it even if he was beaten to death. Lin Xian didn't answer. He shook his head and said, I thought there were still some top experts in the underworld. I even thought you were not bad. But now it seems that you've really disappointed me. So that's all you've got. I actually paid attention to you. What a waste of my time. Yin Tianfeng vomited blood. He had mocked Lin Fan before. He didn't expect Lin Fan to return the favor in such a short time. It made him lose face. Linglong Shui and Hunya were both stunned. 3,000 hellfire dragons. What kind of scene was that? It was simply a miracle. Looking at the 9 fire dragons beside Yin Tianfeng, they suddenly felt that the situation was a bit ridiculous. If Yin Tianfeng didn't come to stir up trouble, perhaps nothing would have happened. But now he had shot himself in the foot. In the distance, those people were even more terrified. This guy was so terrifying. Don't provoke him. When he grew up, he might be even more terrifying than Yin Tianfeng. In fact, he might even become a saint in the future. In an instant, countless people looked at Lin Xian with fear in their eyes. Humph, kid. You must have used some despicable method, right? Otherwise, how could you condense 3,000 hellfire dragons? If you're capable, fight me. Yin Tianfeng took a step forward. His powerful aura shrouded the surroundings. The surrounding sky kept shattering. The surrounding people were terrified. But there were also people who said, I also think that this kid might have used some tricks. He's definitely not as strong as Yin Tianfeng. Linglong Shui and Hunya roared. Yin Tianfeng, don't go overboard. Do you really think you can do whatever you want here? Linglong Shui, I'm giving face to your fathers, but that doesn't mean I can't suppress you. If I want to suppress the two of you, it will be easy for me to win. Yin Tianfeng said coldly. He waved his hand, and a black pagoda floated in his hand, emitting a terrifying aura. Shui Linglong and Shui Linglong's faces turned incomparably ugly. Damn it! The other party had gone too far. Lin Xian turned his head and said, If you want to fight with me, sure, but not now. I need to cultivate now. You can wait at the side. Lin Xian was indeed going to cultivate. He condensed 3,000 hellfire and prepared to envelop his 9 yang divine body. This allowed his 9 yang divine physique to take another step forward. Good lad. I'll wait for you. Yin Tianfeng stepped aside and sneered. Lin Xian waved his hand, and the 3,000 hellfire dragons completely enveloped it. In the next moment, an extremely terrifying flame energy erupted, causing everyone's scalp to go numb. Was this kid crazy? Even Yin Tianfeng's eyelids were twitching violently. Such a cultivation technique was simply courting death. Lin Xian's divine body also cracked at this moment. It couldn't be helped. Hellfire wasn't an ordinary flame. It was an extremely terrifying flame. Lin Xian's physique was unparalleled among those in the initial stage of the Supreme Saint. He could even fight against those in the middle stage of the Supreme Saint. However, it still cracked at this moment. One could only imagine how terrifying the hellfire was. However, this was the effect he wanted. Lin Xian quickly circulated his divine body and began cultivating. The surrounding people sneered and waited. They felt that the battle would begin soon. After all, such cultivation wouldn't last long. However, 1 day, 2 days, 10 days passed. The other party didn't seem to have stopped cultivating at all. This shocked them. Some people couldn't take it anymore. They took out their Dharma treasures and elixirs. They had to leave quickly. Let's go up quickly. Otherwise, we'll be burned to ashes. These people left quickly. After another 10 days, Linglong Shui and Hunya couldn't take it anymore. They also flew up. A month later, Yin Tianfeng's face turned cold. Damn kid. His physique is too terrifying. He can still hold on. Let's see how long you can last. He snorted coldly and turned to leave. The world quieted down. Only the endless hellfire was roaring crazily. Amidst the endless flames, Lin Xian was quietly cultivating. In the blink of an eye, half a year had passed. Everyone went crazy. Some people already thought that Lin Xian was dead for sure. Haha, this kid is really an idiot. He's probably burned to ashes. I think so too. Who can stay in such a terrifying place for half a year? Not even a supreme saint. Countless people sneered, thinking that Lin Xian was dead for sure. Yin Tianfeng also snorted coldly and left. Linglong Shui and Hunya were extremely anxious. They wanted to go down to investigate, but they found that the place had become several times more terrifying than before. Even the two of them couldn't go down. Lin Gongzi, are you okay? The two of them shouted, but there was no reply at all. Damn it! How could this be? Could it be that he really died? If there weren't any changes here, they could still wait at ease. But now, the flames here were several times more terrifying than before. Such a strange change made them unsure. Naturally, Lin Xian also sensed the changes here. Lin Xian roared. His 9 yang divine body bloomed with a terrifying radiance and went up another level. His physique was already completely equivalent to a Supreme Saint mid-stage. Now, He could compete with a supreme saint mid-stage powerhouse just with the power of his physique. This made him extremely surprised. That's great. But soon, he felt an even more terrifying aura sweeping toward him. What's going on? He didn't continue to descend, but the aura here became several times more terrifying than before. What had happened? He frowned. There was a golden light in his eyes as he looked around. There was a sea of fire around him. There didn't seem to be any changes. There didn't seem to be anyone. But at this time, his pupils suddenly shrank, and he looked down. There was a black shadow circling below his feet. It was extremely terrifying. The black shadow also suddenly raised its head. Two flaming eyes pierced through the 9 heavens. Lin Xian felt as if his body was about to melt. What was this? Lin Xian took a step back in fright, but he quickly calmed down. Was it a demonic beast? There was actually such a terrifying demonic beast in the hell flames. He wanted to leave, but he found that the black shadow was already staring at him. Lin Xian's figure flashed, and he rose into the air. He wanted to leave, but the black shadow below roared and rushed up. An endless sea of fire rushed out. Lin Xian felt a huge pressure. In an instant, the surrounding sea was like a chain, entangling him. Chapter 4989. Humph. Lin Xian snorted coldly, unleashing his divine body, sweeping in all directions, causing the heavens and earth to tremble, letting out a thunderous sound. But that black shadow was extremely terrifying. Lin Xian attacked, but it seemed to have passed through the opponent. Was it an illusion? He furrowed his brows tightly, but at this time, the light in his eyes became even more terrifying. He didn't attack, because he realized that the black shadow was actually a dragon, a hellfire dragon. Did the hellfire dragon really exist? Lin Xian was shocked. He stood there. The great dragon sword soul in his body covered his entire body, raising his head to confront the hellfire dragon. The giant dragon head swooped down, less than a meter away from Lin Xian. Lin Xian could feel the dragon flames of the opponent, which could easily hit him, but he didn't take a step back. Lin Xian spoke. So there was a dragon elder resting here. Sorry to disturb you. You're also from the dragon race? The dragon head's voice was very low. As it spoke, the sea of fire in the sky swept in all directions. Without waiting for Lin Xian to reply, it shook its head. No, you're not from the dragon race, you're a human. But why is the dragon aura on your body so terrifying? Speak. The hellfire dragon roared, and the flames of the entire Hell Canyon instantly rose. Those who were still cultivating all ran out crazily. Their faces were filled with fear, so much so that the surrounding people all sensed it. Damn it, what's going on? What happened to the Hell Canyon? Heaven and earth anomaly. Could it be that a strong warrior came? Or was there a peerless treasure in the Hell Canyon that was about to appear? Countless people looked at this scene, extremely shocked. This was something that had never happened in thousands of years. Facing the opponent's questioning and roaring, Lin Xian was very calm. The great dragon sword soul in his body roared. Endless dragon-shaped sword energy flew out, sweeping across the 9 heavens. The hellfire dragon's pupils shrank after seeing this. This is the great dragon sword soul. You're the dragon sword heir? That's right. I'm the dragon sword heir. Lin Xian nodded, not hiding at all. The hellfire dragon laughed. So that's how it is. No wonder I thought a human like you. How could your dragon aura be so strong? So you're the dragon sword's successor. All this was explained clearly. Senior, you should be able to relax now, right? Lin Xian said, but he sighed inwardly. Although the other party's aura was terrifying, Lin Xian's eyes were terrifying. He could tell that this was just an illusion. In other words, the hellfire dragon had already fallen. Senior, do you want me to avenge you? Lin Xian said. The hellfire dragon was stunned, then said, You saw through it? Lin Xian nodded. He could tell that the senior had already fallen. The hellfire dragon said that he didn't die, but he left behind a wisp of his soul. If you really want to help me, then go to the bottom of hell and destroy a stone tablet. My remnant soul can enter the cycle of reincarnation. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll be stuck in this canyon forever, unable to leave. Lin Xian said, "The flames below are too terrifying. I can't go in with my strength." The Hellfire Dragon said, "Don't be afraid. I'll help you, and I'll give you a sword. Use it to shatter the stone tablet." As he said that, a sword flew out from the Hellfire Dragon's head. It was a divine sword burning with flames, the Hellfire Dragon sword. Lin Xian was shocked. This was made from the Hellfire Dragon's most powerful dragon scales. It was an unparalleled divine weapon. Although Lin Xian had the great dragon sword spirit, it was only the sword spirit that circled around his body. The great dragon sword was long gone. Other than that, he had many sacred weapons in his hands, but he only used the great destruction spear. The peerless sword couldn't keep up with his improvement. Now that he saw the Hellfire Dragon sword, Lin Xian was overjoyed. With this sword, coupled with his peerless sword skills, his power would increase again. The Hellfire Dragon seemed to have seen through Lin Xian's thoughts. He said, "As long as you help me destroy the stone tablet and let me enter the cycle of reincarnation, this Hellfire Dragon sword will be yours." As he said that, he even removed the soul imprint on it. Lin Xian felt even more at ease now. "Thank you, Senior." He was overjoyed. This Hellfire Dragon's remnant soul was so terrifying that it made him feel like he was facing a great enemy. What kind of terrifying existence was it at its peak? It probably wasn't weaker than Senior Xiaojiuyo. It was at the peak of the Great Saint Realm. It might even have surpassed the Saint Realm. So the Fire Dragon sword left behind by such a supreme existence really made him happy. Next, the Hellfire Dragon's phantom brought him deeper into the Hell Canyon. He didn't know how long they flew. The surrounding flames were enough to turn a saint into ashes. Fortunately, Lin Xian was wrapped up. Otherwise, he would have turned into ashes long ago. Was it this stone tablet? Lin Xian found a stone tablet in front of him. It was pitch black, and he didn't know what kind of stone it was made of. But in the flames that could turn a saint into ashes, it was perfectly fine. There wasn't even a crack, and it had existed for countless years. This stone was too terrifying. Could he really break it? The Hellfire Dragon said, "You have the Hellfire Dragon sword now, and you can mobilize the flames in the entire canyon. Let's begin." Lin Xian took a deep breath. He used the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul and poured it into the Hellfire Dragon Sword. The Hellfire Dragon Sword seemed to come alive, and the flames on it exploded. There was a dragon phantom surrounding it. Lin Xian slashed with his sword. The power of the entire sea of fire around him flew towards his sword, causing the power of his sword to increase exponentially. Boom! Lin Xian slashed with his sword, and the power that exploded was extremely terrifying. At this moment, the entire Hell Canyon shook violently. Flaming sword light shot into the sky one after another. The people outside the canyon were all stunned. What had happened? Even the powerhouses of the underworld were alarmed by this. One by one, they looked over. Oh no, it's the Fire Canyon. Did an accident happen? What accident could there be? Many people were shocked and puzzled. They all rushed over. Under the sword, the black stone tablet shook violently. Lin Xian roared and used the Great Dragon Sword Soul again. Since he had the power of the Hell Canyon, he never had to worry about wasting it. He slashed with his sword again. This time, the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul was fully unleashed, together with the Hellfire Dragon Sword. It was really terrifying. With a clang, the stone tablet was sent flying into the distance. The flames in the entire Hell Canyon had become much dimmer. It was obvious that he used too much power in this sword. Lin Xian's hands were cracked. His face was pale. The art of immortality was quickly used to heal his injuries. At the same time, he said, "Senior, is it okay? Did you really break it?" The Hellfire Dragon was stunned at first, then laughed out loud. Ha 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 ha. His voice spread to the 9 heavens. Thousands of worlds were collapsing. "Young man, you really surprised me. You are indeed the descendant of the Great Dragon." The Hellfire Dragon kept laughing. Lin Xian said, "Senior, you are too kind." The Hellfire Dragon shook his head. "No, you showed me the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul. It's just that you are too weak. The Great Dragon Sword can't unleash its true power in your hands. If you give it to me, I can become a great emperor." So, Leave it to me. Chapter 4990. He suddenly lowered his head. A terrifying flame burst out from his eyes, as if it was a divine fire. It caused Lin Xin's body to crack. Lin Xin roared and raised his sword to block. The power of the dragon sword spirit turned into a sword shadow and slashed forward. His face darkened. Senior, I saved you. Do you want to repay kindness with enmity? Repay kindness with enmity? Ha 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 ha. The Hellfire Dragon laughed. When I swept the world, a ball of fire could destroy a world. I fought with others, destroyed hundreds of worlds, and countless lives were turned into ashes. Even if you die, what does it have to do with me? I want the dragon sword spirit. Give it to me. He rushed over. Lin Xin's face darkened. He realized he was tricked. This was not a kind person. This was a hellfire dragon. He killed countless. He pretended to be innocent and pitiful to deceive him. With a cold snort, Lin Xin roared and slashed out with his sword. You underestimate me too much. You might not be able to beat me here. You're just a remnant soul. He slashed out with his sword, cutting through the sky. However, it did not hit. The Hellfire Dragon instantly merged into his body. Don't worry, I won't let you die. I will let your body exist as another life. However, your soul shall vanish into thin air from now on. Possession. He roared crazily and rushed in. Lin Xin felt as if his entire soul was about to split open. He felt the world spinning. Too strong. This was a supreme existence. Although it was just a remnant soul, it was still terrifying enough to make the world tremble. Such a strong soul, it could actually resist. The Hellfire Dragon was very happy. It seems that not only do you have the dragon sword spirit, your soul and body are far beyond the Holy King. Even among the great saints, it is extremely rare. That's great. With you, I can recover even faster. The Hellfire Dragon was very satisfied. He wanted to swallow Lin Xin's soul, but at this time, he was stunned. He realized that there seemed to be another aura in his body. It was even more terrifying. He rushed in. Lin Xin was shocked. Before he could even counterattack, he realized that the Hellfire Dragon did not attack his soul, but rushed towards the sword world. Not good, Lin Xin exclaimed. Inside the sword world, Xia Juyo was still cultivating, and this was a very mysterious world. If he was discovered by the other party, then it would truly be dangerous. However, the Hellfire Dragon was too terrifying. It rushed in an instant. Lin Xin was still a step too late. After the Hellfire Dragon went in, it found that he had left the canyon and even left Lin Xin's body, arriving in a mysterious world. This world was incomparably desolate and dilapidated, but there was a prehistoric aura that shocked him. He was dumbfounded. The huge dragon head swept across the land. He saw withered trees and even a valley full of vitality in the distance. Other than that, everything else was withered. What is this? He suddenly became excited as he thought of something. Could it be that this was that world? It was the legendary world. I'm coming in. I'm finally here. Ha 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 ha. Kid, I didn't expect you to give me so many surprises. With this world, who is still my opponent? They all have to listen to me. Lin Xin heard such a roar the moment he entered the sword world. He was stunned. Could it be that the Hellfire Dragon knew about this world and recognized it? The Hellfire Dragon didn't care about Lin Xin at all. He stared at the withered tree in an instant. Divine Spring of Life, that's great. With it, my soul can recover. However, an old thing like you is qualified to use the Divine Spring of Life? Go to hell. He roared and spat out a ball of flames, charging towards Xia Jiuyo. Not good, senior. Dodge. Lin Xin exclaimed. Xia Jiuyo opened his eyes and similarly slashed over, tearing apart the sea of flames. His figure flashed and arrived in front of the Hellfire Dragon. A mere remnant soul dares to be arrogant in front of me. Suppress. An angry roar. An immortal king appeared behind Xia Jiuyo. It swept across the land and sent the Hellfire Dragon flying. The entire land was shaking. In the Four Spirit Valley, the four spirit beasts were also alarmed. Damn, what's going on? This old man is actually so terrifying. When Xia Juyo came in earlier, they were still very jealous. Why could he sit on the divine spring of life? Now that he attacked, they were so scared that they were about to cry. This was simply a supreme existence that could sweep across the world. The spirit dragon exclaimed, "Oh my God, the hellfire dragon was also a supreme existence." This was a fight between immortals. If this wasn't a mysterious world and they were strong enough, they would have run away long ago. The fight between these two immortals didn't cause any cracks in the mysterious world. One could imagine how terrifying this world was. The hellfire dragon roared, "Despicable old thing, you dare to hurt me." He roared and rushed over. However, the immortal king punched him again and pressed him to the ground. The hellfire dragon roared, "Damn it, who are you? Why are you in this world? How can you still be alive?" He couldn't imagine. He realized that the other party was not weaker than him. Although the other party was old and withered, he was still alive. And he was just a remnant soul. "Damn it, if I was at my peak, how could you be my opponent?" Xia Juyo snorted. "You? If I was at my peak, I could kill you in one move." Stars flickered in his eyes, and he was extremely confident. Lin Xian was dumbfounded. Both of their attacks had such frightening power. Xia Juyo said, "What's wrong with this little guy?" Lin Xian said, "I was tricked by him." He explained briefly. Then he asked, "Senior, how are you going to deal with this hellfire dragon?" If he wanted to go out, he could use a sea of fire. The other party could resist. Since he was here, he could forget about going out. "Damn it, do you still want to kill me? I am an immortal existence." The hellfire dragon roared. Xia Juyo sneered. "No one in this world can't die. It's just a matter of time. No matter how strong you are, aren't you just a remnant soul now? I was tricked by someone back then. Otherwise, I would still be an invincible existence." He roared crazily. Xia Juyo ignored him. He used his power and started to seal the other party's soul. The hellfire dragon roared crazily. However, in this world, he couldn't use his power. He could only be beaten up by Xia Juyo. Finally, he said, "I surrender. If you surrender, you can go and open up this world." "Damn old man, how dare you make me work for you?" The hellfire dragon roared. His eyes were red. Then, he said, "What's wrong with this world? Isn't this the legendary place? Why is it so dilapidated? Could it be that this isn't the world I know?" "You talk too much." Xia Juyo sent the hellfire dragon flying with a slap, slapping it into a chaotic place far away. Then, he said, "Go and expand your territory." Lin Xian was stunned. How strong was Xia Juyo? The hellfire dragon roared and charged back. Xia Juyo's seal almost cracked the other party's soul. "Damn old man, what did you do to me?" Chapter 4991. "You're so powerful. Don't tell me you don't know this?" Xia Juyo sneered. The hellfire dragon sensed it for a while, then let out a crazy roar. "How dare you plant a heaven-sealing seal in my soul?" Damn it, he was going crazy. Xia Juyo ignored it and said to Lin Xian, "I've already controlled him. Even if I'm not here, he won't be able to do anything." "That's good." Lin Xian heaved a sigh of relief. Xia Juyo said, "You're using a black stone tablet to suppress him? Let's go out and take a look." Xia Juyo's body shook, and he wanted to go out. "Damn old man, fight me for 300 rounds if you dare." Suddenly, the hellfire dragon roared and wanted to kill him. Xia Juyo frowned. He still had some tricks up his sleeves. "Let's go." He instantly left the sword world. Lin Xian walked out too. After he went out, Xia Juyo waved his hand and tore the sky apart. He then grabbed half of the hellfire dragon sword. He threw it on the ground and stepped on it. The hellfire dragon sword was roaring. "Damn it, take your foot away. How dare you step on me?" Lin Xian was stunned. The sword could talk. Xia Juyo said that this was the dragon scale of the hellfire dragon. It contained his blood, soul, and bloodline. It was like a part of his body. So if he let this thing escape, it would be troublesome. Lin Xian's face changed. It was too troublesome to be with these old monsters. If he was not careful, he could fall into endless danger. Xiaojuyo sealed the sword and gave it to Lin Xian. He said, "You can use this sword." Lin Xian said, "You don't have to worry about it running away?" Xiaojuyo said, "I've already set 3 seals and completely sealed it. As for its power, it's definitely weaker, but it matches your strength. As your strength increases, the 3 seals will be unlocked one after another. By then, you'll be able to control it." Lin Xian smiled. Elder Xiao was really thoughtful. Then, Lin Xian pointed at a stone in the distance and said, "It's that stone tablet. Back then, I only managed to send him flying. Now, it seems like he didn't break at all." Xiaojuyo also walked over, and Lin Xian hurriedly followed by his side. He couldn't withstand the surrounding flames at all. Fortunately, Xiaojuyo was here. Xiaojuyo looked at the stone tablet and took it with a wave of his hand. Lin Xian was shocked. There were no cracks at all. That sword strike just now was so terrifying, but it actually didn't cause any damage to the rock. "Elder Xiao, what kind of stone is this?" "That was too scary. Dragon-suppressing stone." Xiaojuyo's lips curled into a smile. What a good item. It was rare. With him, their chances of winning should be higher. Xiaojuyo looked at the stone carefully. When he saw the word Qing engraved on the back of the stone tablet, he narrowed his eyes. A descendant of Emperor Qing? A descendant of Emperor Qing? Lin Xian was shocked. This stone tablet belonged to a descendant of Emperor Qing? Could it be that a descendant of Emperor Qing had defeated the Hellfire Dragon and sealed his remnant soul here? All right, kid. Don't think about this anymore. Go and do your thing. I'll bring you out. Then, I'll leave for a while. You have to be careful. Then, Xiaojuyo brought Lin Xian out of the depths of the hellfire and soared into the sky. He placed Lin Xian above the 9 heavens. Then, he turned into a stream of light and disappeared. Lin Xian, on the other hand, descended. The scene here had already caused a commotion. Hence, countless people were watching from the surroundings of the canyon. At this moment, the canyon descended from the sky. A figure naturally attracted their attention. Who was it? They looked over. Another expert had arrived. However, they realized that it wasn't him. It was a young man. Who was this young man? Many people were puzzled. However, some people exclaimed, "It was that kid. He didn't die." Many people were astonished. Some of them had already recognized Lin Xian. Those who didn't recognize him soon found out. This was the genius who had caused the Ghost Eyes clan to suffer. Some of them who knew the inside story were even more astonished. Did this person come out alive? How terrifying was his strength? Or did he come out long ago and was just hiding? Many people were puzzled. Some of the older generation's eyes were shining. They all stared at Lin Xian. At this moment, a cold voice was heard. "Kid, you're still alive. Tell me, what exactly happened in the hellfire?" There was an order in the voice. Everyone turned their heads to look. They saw a mighty man riding a war horse with black flames burning on it. Many people were astonished. It was Yin Tianfeng. Some people's eyes lit up. This kid had offended Yin Tianfeng before. Back then, Yin Tianfeng wanted to take action but didn't have the chance. Now, it seemed that he was going to take action. Haha, in that case, this kid is dead for sure. Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. "You're ordering me? Who do you think you are? How dare you order me around? Get lost." The others were shocked. This guy didn't want to live anymore. How dare he challenge the top genius Yin Tianfeng? Yin Tianfeng also walked down from his warhorse. He shouted coldly, "Do you want to die? How dare you disrespect me? Kneel down and kowtow." He took a step forward and the energy in his body exploded. Lin Xian sneered. "I really don't know what right you have to be so arrogant in front of me. Back in the hellfire, I was a few hundred times stronger than you. What right do you have to be arrogant in front of me?" The surrounding people were shocked. What? This guy must be crazy. However, some people said that it was true. Back then, Yin Tianfeng condensed 9 hellfire dragons, but this guy condensed 3,000. He had completely surpassed Yin Tianfeng. How could this guy be so strong? Many of the older generation narrowed their eyes. Yin Tianfeng humphed coldly. "That's not your true strength. You just used despicable means. If we were to compete with true strength, you're not my match. He stretched out 3 fingers. As long as you can take 3 of my moves, I'll let you go. Lin Xian sneered. Do you want to die? I'll grant you your wish. I'll only use one hand. How arrogant. However, no one has ever dared to be arrogant in front of me. Yin Tianfeng was furious. His eyes shone with a terrifying light. There was a black flame on his body that kept jumping. Then, he slapped his palm over. The black palm covered the sky and covered the earth. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines. They retreated quickly. Too strong. Yin Tianfeng was very strong. Even a supreme saint would be turned into a bloody mist with this slap. They all looked at Lin Xian. They didn't know if he could withstand it. Lin Xian sneered and sent out a palm strike as well. It was also a black palm. However, it wasn't a flame. It was a death aura. It was like a black sea of death. It swept across the sky and took away all life. The 2 pitch-black palms collided, and then the 2 palms faced each other. Chapter 4992. Lin Xian's palm was fine, but on the other side, Yin Tianfeng's expression changed. He felt that he had used up some of his vitality. After one move, you plan on suppressing me like this? You really disappoint me. Bring out all your strength. Lin Xian said indifferently. You've completely angered me. Yin Tianfeng, a cold storm appeared on his body. The surrounding black flames became even more terrifying, sweeping through the 9 heavens. Just then, 2 voices came from afar. It was Linglong Shui and Hunya. They said, Yin Tianfeng, don't go overboard. We're going to ask Sir to go back now. They had been paying attention to the situation here. Now that Lin Xian had come out alive, they were naturally happy. Lin Gongzi, come with us. What? Do you think I don't exist? Yin Tianfeng roared. Then, he struck out with both palms, one toward Linglong Shui and the other toward Hunya. He wanted to fight against 2 top geniuses alone. Damn it! How dare you look down on us? Linglong Shui was also furious. 1 against 2. Was he looking down on them? Linglong Shui roared. She formed a seal with her palms, and a red light appeared on her body, turning into a sea of blood. There was a figure inside who opened his eyes abruptly and dashed out. On the other side, Hunya roared. His soul flew out and turned into a soul sword, slashing down quickly. With a boom, the sky fell and the earth cracked. Countless cracks appeared in the sky, and the 2 of them were sent flying backward, coughing up large amounts of blood. Damn it! The 2 were furious. Linglong Shui roared. Blood demon scripture. Hunya also released his soul power. It looked like they were about to fight. However, Lin Xian stood out and said, Let me do it. This is a battle that belongs to me. 2 more punches, right? I'll let you know my strength. Lin Xian walked out with a cold expression. He didn't want to fight, but the other party was too arrogant. They kept finding trouble with him. Since this was the case, he didn't mind showing his strength. Previously in Hell Canyon, his divine body had broken through. Now, his physique was equivalent to a mid-supreme saint. Even if Yin Tianfeng could kill 5 great sages in a row, he wouldn't be able to compete with a great sage intermediate. Kid, show me what you've got. Otherwise, you won't have a chance. Yin Tianfeng sneered. Lin Xian nodded. As you wish. He took a step forward and instantly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was already in front of the other party. What a fast speed. Yin Tianfeng was shocked. Then, Lin Xian threw a punch. There was no light on it, nor was there any law. There was only a fist. This was the power of the divine body. Yin Tianfeng was disdainful at first, but when the punch landed on his body, his expression changed. He didn't want to retreat, but it was too late. With a loud boom, thunder rumbled in the sky. A figure was sent flying and smashed into pieces. The dozens of mountains in the distance disappeared. What was going on? The surrounding people were stunned. Originally, they wanted to see Lin Xian make a fool of himself. But how could it be like this? Lin Xian injured Yin Tianfeng with 1 strike. This power was too frightening. If it was Yin Tianfeng, he would have the power to kill a great sage. But now, In the hands of Lin Xian, he didn't seem to have the upper hand at all. He was really a fly. Lin Xian looked into the distance and shook his head slightly. In the distance, the shattered mountains and countless stones turned into powder. In Tianfeng walked out with a cold expression. There were still cracks on his body, and blood stained his body. He gritted his teeth and said, "Damn kid, you actually hid your power. I won't let you go." He also charged over in a domineering manner. The black flame in his hand was extremely terrifying. It could melt everything. Lin Xian threw a second punch. This time, even though Yin Tianfeng gave it his all, his arm was still numb. It seemed that the power in his body was scattered. Damn it, how could it be? This had already exceeded the power of an initial great sage. His opponent's cultivation was lower than his. How could he be so powerful? Yin Tianfeng felt like he was going crazy. 3 moves had passed. Should he continue? Lin Xian laughed. Yin Tianfeng couldn't laugh. Damn it, continue. He shouted angrily. 13 dark swords. He waved his arm and slashed out 13 streaks of sword chi consecutively. Lin Xian laughed. He punched out 13 streaks of sword chi, shattering the entire sky. Yin Tianfeng retreated again. His arms were broken. Why? Still not convinced? Lin Xian punched again. This time, the power of the punch was even stronger. It was like a real dragon attacking. It directly penetrated Yin Tianfeng's body. A transparent hole appeared on Yin Tianfeng's body. He fell and let out a miserable cry. No. Who are you? Who exactly are you? Yin Tianfeng felt like he was going to break down. When did such a terrifying genius come from the underworld? The others were also dumbfounded. Yin Tianfeng was the top genius of the underworld. He was actually beaten up. Lin Xian walked over and looked at the fallen Yin Tianfeng. He shook his head slightly. You're too weak. You don't deserve to know my name. After that, he ignored Yin Tianfeng. He looked into the distance. Linglong Shui and Hunya flew over and invited Lin Xian. Lin Xian looked at Linglong Shui and said, "Thank you, Blood Fury Saint. But I've decided to choose Soul Sage. I hope Fairy and Blood Fury Saint can understand." After that, Lin Xian and Hongya left. Linglong Shui sighed. It was expected that Yin Tianfeng didn't choose them. After all, Soul Sage thought highly of Yin Tianfeng. They didn't think highly of Yin Tianfeng and had already lost. However, Linglong Shui took a deep breath. She had to hurry back and tell her father about this, that Lin Xian was still above her expectations. As for how to treat Lin Xian, that wasn't her concern. It was all up to her father. What happened here quickly spread. In an instant, countless people were in an uproar. They didn't expect Yin Tianfeng to be defeated. It was unbelievable. One had to know who Yin Tianfeng was. He was a top expert. Now, he was severely injured. Who did it? Countless people were investigating. On the other side, Soul Sage laughed heartily. Lin Gongzi, I welcome your choice. I won't be disappointed. He also knew about what happened previously. He was very happy. It seemed that the strength of this young man was above his expectations. Bring Lin Gongzi to rest. Lin Xian nodded and left with Hunya. Since he had decided to join Soul, he wouldn't leave for the time being. After all, he still needed to enter the 18 levels of hell. On the other side, Linglong Shui also returned to report to Blood Fury Saint. The Blood Kill Saint narrowed his eyes. It seemed that he had made a mistake this time. Father, what should we do next? Linglong Shui knew that Blood Fury Saint had also missed out on some geniuses. However, those geniuses were all dealt with secretly. Should they make a move this time? Blood Fury Saint shook his head. No, change the strategy this time. I've made a mistake twice. He's completely out of my expectations. So, don't make an enemy out of him. Even if he's not one of us, we can't be enemies. Understand? Chapter 4993. Linglong Shui was shocked. Was her father afraid of the other party? To be more precise, he was afraid of the other party's future. If the other party grew up in the future, he would be able to threaten a saint-level existence. He nodded and said, "Yes, father. I understand." A few days later, Lin Xian met the Soul Sage Lord again. The Soul Sage Lord brought him into the distance. Then, they took a teleportation array and left. When they appeared, Lin Xian discovered that he had arrived in another world. He was still in the Dark Star system. The Soul Sage Lord said, "This is my world. Furthermore, it is one of my worlds. This is where my subordinates cultivate." The so-called Soul was an organization of assassins from Hell. The assassins from Hell were divided into many organizations. There was the Killing Temple, Soul, Blood Slaughter Camp, and so on. They were all very famous. The Soul Sage Lord brought Lin Xian here. Clearly, he wanted to focus on nurturing him. Of course, he still had to have some methods. He said, "Lin Gongzi, are you sure you want to join Soul? If you do, you will receive a Soul imprint. Take a secret pill. This is to ensure that Soul's secret is not leaked. Not only us, but all the assassins from Hell must do this. Even in my mind, there's a soul restriction as well." After Lin Xian heard this, he was silent for a moment. He said, "What's the difference between having a soul restriction and not having a soul restriction? Without a soul restriction, you are just an ordinary martial artist. You will not receive our core training. But if you have a soul restriction, we will do our best to nurture you. You will obtain supreme movement techniques and supreme sure kill manuals." In truth, Lin Xian was the least afraid of soul imprints, poisons, curses, and the like. He had the Great Dragon Sword Soul. He could rely on the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul to destroy them. It was just that he had to assess whether these two cultivation methods were worth the effort he had put in. The Soul Sage Lord also smiled mysteriously. It seemed that if Lin Xian didn't completely join and have a soul imprint planted, he wouldn't reveal any secrets. Lin Xian said, "All right, I am willing to join." Next, the Soul Sage Lord brought Lin Xian to an ancient hall. There was a statue of a god there. That was an extremely terrifying figure, looking down on the world like an unparalleled god. When he saw the statue, Lin Xian's pupils shrank. It was terrifying. This is... Soul Sage Monarch became extremely respectful. This was the statue of Underworld Emperor. After speaking, he bowed respectfully. "Lin, if you want to join us, then bow to the statue of Emperor Ming." Lin Xian walked over and bowed. In the next moment, he felt that the statue's eyes suddenly released a ball of light that turned into two mysterious runes. It flew into his glabella. Lin Xian felt that her soul had been imprinted. It seemed that as long as the other party was willing to give the order, his soul would be destroyed. This was not the first time he had experienced such a feeling. Previously, when he had just arrived, the people from the heavenly grotto had planted such a life and death imprint on him. Even he could do it himself. Therefore, Lin Xian did not resist. He took a deep breath. When the time came, he just had to use the Great Dragon Sword Soul to kill it without anyone knowing. The Soul Sage Lord beside him was also surprised. "You didn't faint? That's really surprising." Lin Xian was stunned. Later, he understood. It turned out that those people couldn't withstand the imprint and fainted. They would need to rest for a few days to recover. Lin Xian stood there as if nothing had happened. However, the Soul Sage Lord did not suspect anything. This was the statue of the Emperor. It had supreme divine abilities. No matter how strong Lin Xian was, he could not break through the divine abilities of the Emperor. "Lin, come over here." The Soul Sage Lord brought Lin Xian out of the ancient hall and to the other side. Then, he said, "Now, you can ask any questions you have. I will tell you everything I know." Lin Xian said, "Senior, what are the two supreme divine abilities you mentioned just now? Were they created by Underworld Emperor?" Lin Xian had this thought. The Soul Sage Monarch spoke. The Underworld Emperor had indeed created a supreme ultimate technique, as well as an extremely powerful assassination technique. However, not everyone was able to cultivate it. Ordinary assassins cultivated supreme divine abilities created by ancient sages. But you have enough talent. In addition, you have the imprint of your soul. It will definitely not betray you. Therefore, you are qualified to learn the two supreme divine abilities of Underworld Emperor: Shadowless Heaven's Net, Azura Sword Art. One was a supreme movement technique. The other was a supreme assassination technique. Lin Xian sucked in a breath of cold air. It seemed like he had learned the two supreme divine abilities of the Emperor. The complete inheritance of the Emperor could not be given to him. However, it was enough. The supreme divine abilities of the Emperor surpassed everything. Who would have thought that the underworld would really spend a lot of money to allow top geniuses to cultivate these two divine abilities? But then again, it made sense. Other than Lin Xian, who had the confidence to destroy the imprint of the Emperor's statue, no one else would be able to do so. Since that was the case, what did the underworld have to worry about? Next, Lin Xian obtained the two divine abilities. He said, "Sage, I need a place to cultivate." This was natural. The Soul Sage quickly prepared an extremely good mountain range for Lin Xian. There were all sorts of resources here. It was enough for Lin Xian to cultivate in peace. After Lin Xian entered, he took a deep breath and formed an array. Then, he activated the Great Dragon Sword Soul with all his might. He also used the power of the Sword World. Lin Xian wanted to destroy the imprint in his mind. At this moment, an underworld sword flew out. It said in the air, "Kid, you really have a good idea. You want to gain something without risking anything. But do you think the imprint of the Emperor is so easy to destroy? You underestimate the Emperor too much." Lin Xian opened his eyes and snorted coldly. He shut his mouth. With a slap, he sent the underworld fire dragon sword flying. The fire dragon sword chi gritted his teeth. Damn it, but he did not attack Lin Xian. All of his life was in his opponent's hands. Therefore, at this moment, he could only sneer as he watched Lin Xian suffer. With the support of the Sword World's power, the Great Dragon Sword Soul transformed into an extremely terrifying attack power and began to attack the seals. It had to be said that the Soul Imprint was indeed very strong. Even if Lin Xian activated it with all his might, it still took him a month's time to completely destroy the Soul Imprint. One had to know that a month was not short. After all, the power of the Sword World was still very terrifying. Fortunately, the power of the Great Dragon Sword Soul was unparalleled, and his soul imprint was not left behind by the real Great Emperor. It was just a statue of the Great Emperor. Now that he had nothing to worry about, Lin Xian began to cultivate these two ultimate techniques. Damn, it was removed so quickly? The Underworld Fire Dragon Sword could not believe it. Lin Xian looked at the other party and sneered. "How could you know my trump card? Go play by the side." He once again sent the other party flying with a slap. The roar of the Underworld Fire Dragon Sword chi directly created a hole in the ground. Out of sight, out of mind. And inside the Sword World, the remnant soul of the Underworld Fire Dragon was opening up those savage areas every day. As he opened up, he roared crazily. It was obvious that he was incomparably angry and depressed. Chapter 4994. Lin Xian began to cultivate Shadowless Heaven's Net, an extremely terrifying movement technique. Lin Xian had come into contact with Hell's assassins before and had even fought many battles with them. The opponent's movement technique was indeed strange. It was only because he had the heavenly secret god eyes that he could detect in advance. The others would probably be killed without even knowing when the other party arrived. Not only Hell, but even the heavenly court had top assassins. Moreover, those hidden techniques were extremely terrifying. Lin Xian guessed that they were most likely the divine abilities of the great emperors. After cultivating Shadowless Heaven's Net, it wasn't any weaker than spatial divine abilities. Even before Emperor Ming became a great emperor, he relied on this movement technique to compete with his enemies in the universe. One person against many in the endless universe at the same time. As for the Azura sword art, it gathered killing intent into one. It was a sure kill sword. There weren't many sword techniques, only a total of 7 moves. However, each move was extremely decisive and could directly take the enemy's head. Moreover, after cultivating the Azura sword art, one would usually hide the killing intent in the sky like a normal person. However, once one attacked, the killing intent would be released in an instant, turning one into an Azura. It was truly terrifying. Lin Xian began to cultivate just like that. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. Lin Xian didn't expect that he would stay in hell for so long, and even continue to stay there. However, he didn't care at all now. The two great Emperor divine abilities were the most terrifying divine abilities he had ever encountered. The difficulty of cultivating them was also far greater than before. It was even harder than the fearless lion seal. In the blink of an eye, another 3 years had passed. Lin Xian opened his eyes. It wasn't that he didn't want to cultivate anymore, but there was a piercing pain on his back. It was the infernal evil eye. Damn it, is it acting up? Lin Xian felt that the situation wasn't good. He had to go to the 18 levels of hell. In these 3 years, Lin Xian had also gained something. He could already use the first move of the Azura sword art. As for Shadowless Heaven's Net, he was only at the entry level. It couldn't be helped. The Great Emperor's divine ability was really too difficult to cultivate. This was the first time Lin Xian had improved so much in 3 years. It was already very terrifying. Especially the Azura sword skill, Lin Xian was able to use it once every 3 years. If word got out, it would shock everyone. From the looks of it, an Emperor-level mystique was not something that could be completely comprehended in a short period of time. Lin Xian stood up and prepared to look for the Soul Sage Monarch. However, when Lin Xian went out, he realized that something was wrong. The atmosphere of the entire world seemed to be tense. What happened? Lin Xian didn't find the Soul Sage Monarch, only Soul Cliff. Lin Xian asked what had happened. Hunya said that someone had broken the rules of the underworld and was running for his life. Therefore, my father is already gathering people and preparing to capture him. Did he escape to hell? Lin Xian was astonished. Was this the 18th level of hell? Hunya nodded. Lin Xian said, "Take me to see your father. I want to help." If it were anyone else, Hunya would definitely refuse. However, Lin Xian was different. Although Lin Xian was young, Hunya had seen his strength before. It was very terrifying. Therefore, he was completely qualified to go. Hunya brought Lin Xian and flew quickly. Finally, they landed in a palace in the distance. There were many people inside. When they saw Lin Xian, the Soul Sage Monarch was also surprised. "Lin, you're out? How was your cultivation?" Then, he said, "I almost forgot. I should have given you some ancient sage cultivation inheritances first. After all, those 2 mystiques were too difficult." Hearing this, the others were also shocked. Could it be that this kid was cultivating them? They looked at Lin Xian with reddened eyes. They were envious. Lin Xian said, "It's fine. I'll only cultivate these 2 mystiques." Indeed, Lin Xian might not cultivate the others, because he felt that it was a waste of time. Oh, if he wasn't here to exchange for mystiques, then what was he here for? The Soul Sage Monarch was surprised. He thought that Lin Xian felt that the Emperor mystiques were too difficult and wanted to learn ancient sage mystiques first. But now, it seemed that wasn't the case. Lin Xian said, "I heard from Hunya that something happened, so I want to help. Is that true?" "Okay." The Soul Sage Monarch nodded. Then, he waved his hand and gave Lin Xian a scroll. He wanted to let him understand the situation first. The Soul Sage Monarch continued to issue missions. Soon, he found 100 experts and prepared to set off for the first level of hell. 99 people were ready to set off. The Soul Sage Monarch looked at Lin Xian. He said, "Lin, be careful. The 18th level of hell was very dangerous. Although it was only the first level, it was far more dangerous than anything else. Therefore, you must act according to your strength." Lin Xian said with a smile, "Don't worry, Sage Monarch. I'm just curious and want to see the 18th level of hell. If that's the case, I won't be worried." The Soul Sage Monarch also smiled. Next, Lin Xian and the 99 Soul Sage Monarch Slayer formed a team and prepared to set off. At the same time, they learned that they weren't the only ones. The Slayer Temple and the Blood Fiend Camp had all sent out teams. Whoever could capture the enemy would be rewarded. Their reputation, status, and resources would be greatly improved. Therefore, this was a hunt and also a competition, especially for the Soul Sage Monarch Slayer Temple and the Blood Fiend Camp. The 18th level of hell didn't belong to any world. It seemed to be a world of its own, with only one entrance. After entering, it would be an incomparably vast hell. The Soul Sage Monarch was right. This place was too dangerous and terrifying. Ordinary sage monarchs wouldn't dare to come here. In fact, if one wanted to enter the 18th level of hell, one had to be at least a great sage. This time, there were 5 enemies, all of them great sages, especially the last 2. They had reached the middle stage of the Great Sage Monarch Slayer Temple and were very terrifying. They might even have mysterious sage artifacts in their hands. They couldn't be underestimated. That was why the Soul Sage Monarch Slayer Temple sent 100 Slayer Saints. Firstly, hell was very large and needed to be searched. Secondly, even if they really met, they could work together. You, a member of the Soul Sage Monarch Slayer Temple, was a woman who looked to be in her 30s. In fact, she had lived for 3,000 years. She wore a veil and looked at Lin Xian with a smile. Lin, this is just a tour, right? You don't have to do anything. After all, you are a genius that the Sage Monarch thinks highly of. Nothing can happen to you. Lin Xian smiled bitterly and didn't explain much. Anyway, it was fine as long as he could enter hell. Next, he could look for things related to Xidagarba. You led the group and set off. They left the world and came to the vast starry sky. In the boundless universe, they flew quickly in a war chariot. Finally, they came to a space that was incomparably dark. However, the sound of chains came from the darkness. You and the others grabbed the chains and swung them hard, making cracking sounds. Lin Xian saw something that looked like a lid being slowly opened. A fiery red light appeared from inside, and an extremely terrifying aura seemed to make people fall into a 10,000-year-old ice cave. An entrance appeared. This was the entrance to the 18th level of hell. You and the others said, "Go in." The group turned into lightning and entered in an instant. After entering, Lin Xian felt an extremely terrifying aura. Was this the 18th level of hell? It was too terrifying. He felt his body tremble. It seemed that he had to at least have the physique of a great sage. Otherwise, it would be very difficult to enter here. It was only because he had the divine body that he could enter with the cultivation of a sage monarch. However, he was still shocked. Just the first level of the 18th level of hell was so terrifying. He didn't know how terrifying the 18th level of hell was. Chapter 4995. The first layer of purgatory was extremely vast. Furthermore, there were all kinds of monsters and skeletons. They were all creatures of the darkness attribute. Even the sea demons were of the darkness attribute. As Lin Xian and the others were flying, a rotting sea demon flew past them. When it flapped its wings, the poison dripping down could pierce through everything. Fortunately, they had all cultivated top-notch movement techniques. Lin Xian used the shadowless heavens net, instantly vanishing and reappearing on the other side. What an exquisite movement art! The others were startled. Even Moon was curious. You've only joined for 3 years, right? What kind of movement art are you cultivating? Lin Xian smiled. I was just blindly cultivating it. If these people knew that he had cultivated the shadowless heavens net to such a level in just 3 years, what would they think? As they flew, they avoided the dangers of purgatory. After flying for a few days, Moon said, "The Bloodkill Hall's people are definitely here, so we have to hurry. Let's do it like this. We'll split into 5 groups of 20 and scout from different directions. As soon as we discover anything, we'll contact each other." 3 days later, you, Lin Xian, and the others stopped in their tracks and stared ahead with furrowed brows. Ahead of them was the scene of a huge battle. The blood-red ground was filled with all kinds of terrifying law auras. Moon frowned. What a terrifying killing aura. It seemed the Bloodkill camp's people had attacked. However, they should have failed. He sighed. This time, the target's power is even more terrifying than we imagined. We can't relax. Behind him, the Soul's people all nodded. Even Lin Xian narrowed his eyes. A battle of experts? Interesting. At the same time, in the first layer of purgatory, 2 figures were standing on top of a mountain. One was a man, and the other was a woman. There was a sword mark on her forehead that looked like a blood sword. It was extremely mysterious. She was looking into the distance. The Bloodkill camp and the Souls people had both come? Humph, in the killing hall. But it won't be so easy for them to kill me. Luosha, our people have already started fighting with them, the man at the side said in a low voice. This man's face was pale, and he was wearing a black robe. He looked extremely demonic. The two of them were the targets that Lin Xian and the others were looking for. However, other than these two, there were 3 other targets. It seemed that these people were not together. All of a sudden, the bell on his waist rang. He said, the black disc and the others had sent him a message. It seemed like the two of them were about to make a move. The mysterious woman narrowed her eyes when she heard this. Fine, then let them attack. Don't leave anyone alive. The bewitching man nodded with a smile and began to transmit his voice. There was a sneer, but no one was there. At this time, the ground around them cracked. Many white bones crawled out from it and rushed toward Moon and the others. Counterattack. Moon let out a roar. Soul's murderous aura was also unleashed. Everyone who could come here was not weak. However, the enemy was even more mysterious and strange. Moreover, this dragon-trapping array had an extremely strong suppression, sealing, and even illusory effect. These killers were destined to be miserable after coming in. Not long after, screams were heard. Another powerful killer saint died. The rest of the people were also terrified. Lin Xian had been standing there. Suddenly, he heard screams coming from the front. There was even blood. He frowned. Were they attacked? Golden light burst out from his eyes. He wanted to save them. However, at this time, a cold wind blew behind him. Lin Xian suddenly turned around and found a figure standing behind him. It was pitch black and abnormally strange. There was a black butterfly in the other party's hand that kept dancing. Die, young man. Black Butterfly sneered, and the black butterfly in his hand flew over. Carrying a strange poison, it pounced toward Lin Xian. The pollen of these butterflies would instantly turn a Saint King into a pool of blood. Lin Xian frowned. With a wave of his hand, a ball of flame flew out and directly enveloped the black butterfly. The poisonous powder in the sky instantly burned, and the butterfly was also burned by the flames. It let out a miserable cry. Damn it, how dare you? Black Butterfly roared. He did not expect the other party to have such a terrifying flame. Come back. With a roar, he waved his hand. The black butterfly rushed out of the flames and flew back. At this moment, it was already on the verge of death. Damn brat, how dare you hurt my butterfly? You're dead meat. Black Butterfly gritted his teeth. There was an extremely terrifying murderous intent in his eyes. I've decided not to kill you. I'll torture you to death. I'll let you live a life worse than death for 3,000 years. Lin Xian also narrowed his eyes. So, you're my target this time. Kneel on the ground obediently and let me capture you. Hearing this, Black Butterfly was stunned. What did you say? You want me to let you capture me? He looked up to the sky and laughed. Brat, you must be new. You don't know how terrifying I am. How many powerhouses have died at my hands in the Assassin Temple? You're just a young man? You're not even a great saint. How dare you be arrogant in front of me? You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.